Your life changes the first time you write a 7-figure check to the IRS. He took a pair of pliers and just pulled his own tooth out. A man grows old only through memory. There's much too little forgetting in this world. Forget stuff. One day, nobody will remember me, except maybe if the videos continue on. Even your bloodline will eventually dilute. Every single time your kids and your grandkids and great-grandkids have children, you'll be reduced to where in enough generations, none of your grandkids will be related to you. They'll be less than 1%. I've told people the trends that make money probably as accurately as any human in the last 20 years. I will be cocky on that. You go back and watch my videos and nobody called it how the average person could rise out from rags to riches like me. Nobody, not at scale.
What's up, Latino Nation? My name's Tony Delgado, and today we're here with a special episode and a special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Tai Lopez. Tai, thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks. It's been a while since I was on your stuff. That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, back in Puerto Rico.
Back when you couldn't be in person, so we did it on Zoom or whatever.
Yeah, the weird COVID days.
Yeah, that was fun times.
So you're like all around the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of new things, a lot of new projects.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive into all the new things that you're working on, you know, you've educated like millions of people from all around the world, right? Latino Wall Street, our mission is to educate people around financial literacy.
Right.
Why do you think business and financial literacy are not taught in school?
Modern school comes from the 1800s German education model. So back in the 1800s, there was a group of kings and Kaisers who basically wanted soldiers. So they created a system that was very assembly line, like a factory. It produced people that knew reading, writing, arithmetic, right? And not much more. You didn't know how to build your own business in the 1800s. You didn't need to know that. You didn't know how to invest in the stock market. You didn't really need to know, especially in America, how to pay taxes because there was no taxes. Fast forward to today, we're still using a business model of education that's outdated. And so, you know, I've been telling people for more than a decade, you got to change how you learn because the old way of sitting in a classroom, memorizing things, this has been proven to be one of the least effective ways to teach. In fact, I read an interesting study. The US military in the 1950s wanted to know how to educate troops around the world. So they said, it's very hard for us to create like classrooms with teachers. What if we do distance education? This is before the internet, before online courses. And so the military rolled out military students in a classroom with a teacher, and then those learning distance education where they'd get this stuff in the mail, they'd study on their own, they submit the answers. Turns out there was no difference except the distance education actually performed a little better. So military, U.S. has known, the world's known for over 70 years that learning doesn't take place in a classroom. What do most kids do? You and I were in school. We sat there, we daydreamed, we thought about girls, we, played pranks on each other. We weren't paying attention to the class. How is one professor who's probably not that interesting, especially in elementary school? The number one thing that happens in schools now is teachers and the system accidentally makes kids hate reading and learning. The average 25-year-old, after they graduate college, never reads a nonfiction book again from start to finish for at least 5 years. They're so turned off by being forced to memorize. So I'm a big fan of books, but reading things that are interesting, reading the books by actually fascinating people. You don't need so many teachers. History, a lot of kids don't like history. I didn't do good at, I never was interested in chemistry, even though I was good at math. And I look back why. I remember I had a horrible teacher. So we have kids' destinies trapped in a classroom. Odds are the teacher is at best average, maybe slightly above. Man, we can do distance education and have the most interesting history teachers in the world educate millions of kids. You want the outliers teaching. So the old school model is based on this German, prehistoric, not literally put,
It's like
pre-modern world.
Factory workers and slaves, right?
Yeah, you create so average person graduated from school, doesn't know how to do their tax return, doesn't know how to buy a piece of real estate, doesn't know how to invest their money. And and also doesn't know how to read people, doesn't know public speaking, doesn't have good social skills. So therefore doesn't have good emotional regulation where they can manage their own emotions. All the important things of our life are very distant from memorizing what the Pythagorean theorem is. So schools have been a very poor substitute for real life learning.
Yeah. So I would assume then if you were going to have kids, you would probably homeschool them, right?
Yeah, I have kids.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't put them on my social media. I don't think kids belong on social media. People are always surprised when I have kids.
Wow. Do you homeschool your kids?
Yeah, or you can do. There's a lot of
schools, like cool.
Yeah,
schools
there's cool charters. But I would, whatever you do, don't stick them in regular. Imagine being in LA public school system now.
Goodness.
With all the craziness, kids having cell phones at 6 years old. Who knows what their internet's not made for kids at all. It's not really even made for adults. Definitely not made for kids. So you got to protect your kids. That's why I said I have kids, but I don't put them on social media because that's not a place for kids. Are supposed to have an idyllic, fun childhood. They're not supposed to be trying to figure out how to get views. That's not good for your psyche. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So President Trump just defunded the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So if they were going to rebuild it, they basically said the system is broken. They want to rebuild it. Yeah. If you were put in charge of the Department of Education, what would you do for all these kids in America?
Well, I love that Trump got these big centralized Washington, D.C. I'm a big fan of drain the swamp. Getting rid of the Department of Education like Trump's doing doesn't mean getting rid of education. It means getting rid of inefficient bureaucracies. America, by every single rank, is one of the lowest of any high-income country in science. And what are we doing? Joel Salatin used to say it's better to do nothing for nothing than something for nothing. So we're spending $150,000 a kid. I saw in Chicago in one school district, in one school, 100% of the graduating kids were functionally illiterate. Not one. Not one. And you have such strong teacher unions and all this stuff that you can't fire the teachers. And by the way, I don't even think half the time it's the teacher's fault. A lot of teachers are trying their best. So I don't even blame the teachers. They're trapped in a poor, inefficient system. So the way that Trump and I think the education system will do better is give the power back, decentralize. I'm a fan. I've been a fan of crypto, been posting videos on crypto since like 2016, 2017. You're decentralizing money, and that's better. Mm-hmm. There's an old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you give that's the basis of America. We don't have a king. Because when there's a king, like there was in England, power goes to their head and they get out of control. In the same way, when there's one person that controls so much power of the education system, the power corrupts that institution. So by decentralizing it and having 50 states have autonomy, each of them can run their own experiment. Other states can learn from other states. If you're in Massachusetts, you can be like, interesting. Texas is doing it this way. Maybe we should adjust. So I'm a big fan of split tests too. And so why not unleash 50 states to have their own split tests on the educational model? In general, when you're a mad scientist and you split test things, better results come out of it. Right now, you have God knows which out of touch PhDs sitting in Washington, D.C. going, this is the best way to educate kids. Not even using good data. There's a lot of bad education. People used to always say, statistically, you can prove kids who go to college make higher income. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock, because they're richer kids. When you control for income, you don't find that to be true at all. It's just simple. You can see simple examples. Is Harvard a school that actually makes people wealthier from the classroom? No. And I can prove it. Who are the richest people in history who went to Harvard? Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. and they both dropped out. The richest, the most successful, from what Harvard was great for is for rich kids to network, form lifelong alliances, and get wealthy together. That's what Elon Musk had, the PayPal mafia. So when you have centralized education, Washington, D.C., first off, you get a lot of weird agendas that are totally out of touch with what Americans want their kids to learn. Look, like I said, I have kids. The whole thing about like gender studies and sexuality, I don't think it needs to be taught to kids that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You know, maybe you could argue when kids are teenagers, you should talk about it. Ideally, parents are talking about it. I'm a big fan of individual responsibility. So the family unit, the tribe community has been the basis of civilizations for 10,000 generations. And so creating a nanny state where the school system has to teach your kids stuff is a poor substitute for parents doing it. Now, I understand, like I said, I could see the argument. Some kids don't have parents, both parents. Some kids' parents are crazy. So maybe you need school, but you have agendas in Washington, D.C. that are out of touch with American parents. Most American parents don't want their kids doing any sexuality conversations at age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're just like, leave it alone, man. Study other stuff. It's irrelevant. Kids have let them live, you know, as innocent as you can. Life's tough enough when you get an adult. There's no reason to rush them into adulthood. So they're so out of touch that I'm glad, you know, Trump and Elon and them just cut this shit. Nobody cares. Even Democrats don't want that. Only the extreme. DC has been run for the last, well, at least 4 years by extremists that nobody cares about their agenda. They're pushing agendas that nobody cares about, you know?
So, I mean, Trump is an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't a career politician.
Yes.
Elon Musk, obviously one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time.
Yeah.
Now there's even rumors that Grant Cardone might be running for California potentially.
Yeah.
Do you
He's
think
here at my house Sunday.
Yeah, I know. That's exciting.
I let him use the house here in Beverly Hills.
Do you think that's a good idea for entrepreneurs to get involved in politics?
Hell yeah. Look, you don't have to take my opinion. What was America's idea? America was an idea. And it was two big ideas. One was no king. So decentralized decision-making. You couldn't have one absolute king. Number two, no career politicians. See, a king is a career politician. King Charles was, or, you know, all the English kings were born that way from childhood. They knew they were becoming king. They were groomed to be king. They didn't live in the modern world. And America was an experiment. Wait a sec. What if we had a government by the people, not by professional politicians, by the people, for the people? You know, I lived with the Amish for 2.5 years. The Amish are the happiest people on earth. They've done a lot of studies. Professor Jared Diamond, who won a Pulitzer Prize for Guns, Germs, and Steel, one of the most respected books of the last 50 years. He was at my house and I did an interview and he's like, "Guy, I studied the Amish. They have 500% less depression than mainstream society." The Amish they're Christian. They're like very conservative Christians. People don't. Now, I'm not talking about Mormons. I'm talking about Amish, the ones with horse and buggy, no electricity. So I lived with them for 2.5 years. I can speak their language, okay? Kan Deutsch verstehen. They speak their own dialect. They have decentralized church leaders. So to be the pastor, they call him a minister or a bishop, you can't run for it. What they do, the pillars of the community, the men and the women in the church, the adults vote, and then they throw dice. Yeah. So let's say me, you, and Adrian were nominated to be church leaders. Okay? We couldn't have a childhood ambition. Oh, I want to be the church leader, because that's the guy you don't want to be the church leader. The narcissist who from childhood is like, yeah. So the Amish have no profession and you get no pay. So the Amish have a very pure church. Modern churches, you have a lot of greed. You have a lot of corruption in them because people just decide, well, I feel that I'm a religious leader and I get paid a high salary with my nonprofit. So the Amish decentralized decision-making And the results of the society are zero divorce rate, essentially zero crime. I mean, literally, statistically, almost zero crime. Happiest people on earth. What else do you want?
Did they not use money?
No, they use money. Money. The Amish have proven that you can have a good civilization with money. It's not Amish are more capitalistic. They have a combination of capitalism, but they also have community. Help your own community. So Trump, Grant Cardone, Elon Musk, whoever versus Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a career politician. I don't think that America, the foundation of America, was specifically around not having that. George Washington said, I don't want to be the president. I'm a farmer. Or America had all these presidents. None of them were lifelong career politicians that became detached from what the people want. It's government by the people, for the people. So Trump, whether you like him or not, he's part of the American fabric. He was a guy out making money, building hotels in New York City, had some wins, had some losses, just like everybody. Trump University, by the way, I just did a whole video, was a great course. It's one of the courses I bought in 2006 for $1,000.
Wow.
Taught me how to buy real estate. I've been a real estate investor since I bought that course. Carlton Sheets course and Donald Trump. So this whole thing, the career politicians come out and say, oh, Trump University was a scam, because little do people know. One of the most profitable parts of the government, you can see this on government websites, is the interest payments on universities. Wow. It's one of the most profitable. I mean, you look at profit margins, the amount of government interest. So America basically structured a kid where you send your 18-year-old kids to get poetry degrees in liberal arts colleges. Okay. Only 30% of kids go into a career that they went into debt to get the college degree about. That is a scam. Imagine if you put kids in debt. My brother went to UNC for a Spanish degree. He could have just gone and lived in Spain, had a good old jolly time. Instead, the system tricked him into going to school. Got $80,000 of debt plus interest. He ended up paying it back. It's like $200,000. I remember it was a dark cloud over his head for 10, 15 years. So career politicians get detached from reality. They think what America's about is huge institutions with some central people. Have you ever been to DC? DC has some of the highest IQ people, but some of the most mentally ill people on earth. I mean, if you live in DC, Republican or Democrat, you will agree with me. There's more whack jobs in DC than probably any city in the world. It attracts all these massive psychotic narcissists. So you don't want much coming out of DC. Like, I don't want. You want limited stuff. You got the White House there, the Pentagon. I mean, the Pentagon can't find 20 billion or more. They can't find it. They haven't passed an audit. So probably need to decentralize almost all of America and get back to the good idea that America was at the beginning. We're not a professional political kings, princes, and monarchs. Now you have these career Congress people. These jokers have been in, they can't even walk. They're so old. There's people, I've watched the last 6 months, 2 people, they had a stroke talking. Now that can happen to anybody at any age, but do you really want politicians that have been in there from 25 and now they're 85 having a stroke? I mean, so, and by the way, all these career politicians end up getting rich from insider trading. The rich, these people, they got $100,000 salary and $100 million net worth. That's insider trading. You shouldn't be allowed to invest in the stock market. What it should be is just like you can be a senator for, just like the president, for like 4 or 8 years. Then you're out. And we should pay we should have less politicians, but we should pay them higher. President of the United States, why doesn't the president of the United States get a salary of $1 billion a year? That's nothing to America. We're a $25 trillion company. 25 trillion GDP. And our tax receipts, let's say, are 5 trillion. So put this in perspective. 5 trillion is 5,000 billion. So give him one of the 5,000 billion, and then presidents wouldn't be corrupt.
Yeah, keep them honest, right?
Yeah, because you're like, I don't need to take any crazy Ukraine money. I don't need to do that. I make $1 billion. Pay that joker 180 million. Why not? Then you would also attract the best and the brightest. Humans respond to rewards. Communism tried since its inception point, which was essentially, Karl Marx in the early 1800s, Trotsky, all these people were under the assumption that humans don't respond to rewards. And capitalism said, no, humans respond. If you pay 200 grand a year, you're going to get low-level politicians. And we've got that. That's why one good thing about Trump, he was independently wealthy. Other presidents were poor before, and then they got wealthy after with their book deal and their Netflix deal. Just be like, we're going to make it. No chance of corruption. You get $1 billion a year. America can afford it. Send $1 billion less to Sesame Street shows in Afghanistan. We were funding a $20 million Sesame Street show in Afghanistan. Even if I wanted to help Afghanistan, which I don't think politicians should have the right to take Americans' money and put it in hidden ways. I just saw we're doing 600 million went to Australian universities. Now, maybe there's another side of the story, but that's pretty shady. Like, I've paid huge amount of taxes. Okay. When I lived in California, it was 52.5% tax rate. I was under the impression that if I pay money, the whole point is it kind of benefits me and my family.
Yeah, fix the roads and the schools.
Dude, I lived up in the Hollywood Hills. The roads were so bad because they were sucking all the tax money out of California and spreading it to stupid programs. I remember I had a car. I got a flat tire every month. I remember calculating I spent $3,000 in tires a year because you would always hit a pothole. And I'm going, what? I'm sending, first time you your life changes the first time you write a 7-figure check to the IRS. And so what I'm saying is, I want people who aren't career politicians. They go, nah, I ain't taking your money and spending it on any of that stuff. The way it should be is there should be charities that are not part of the government. And if you want to contribute your money to Afghanistan Sesame Street show charity, then you write your own check. Go for it. Knock all the virtue signalers that are mad that we're not sending money overseas. You do it then. I got a good deal. Take a 10% of your monthly paycheck. All you people that believe in, sending money out, you do it then. Lead by example. Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So if you think we should fund more overseas countries, wars, then you do it. Did you know there's a rule at the IRS? You're allowed to contribute any amount above the minimum that you want to. There's actually people, a few insane people a year, who send 100 million to the IRS that only owe 1 million. There's people who are like, oh, I believe in America. So all the woke people, if you want to fund the government and you really believe, then lead by example. Be the change that you want to see in the world. It's not virtuous to take other people's money and donate it on your behalf. You have no right. You have no right to do that. I do think there should be some minimum taxes. The real way to do it is have use taxes. So we have the technology now. If you drive a car a lot, you should pay more money than a dude who walks because you're eating up the sidewalk. You're eating up the roads. Roads get wear and tear on them from your tires. So we should have little meters and you pay a use tax.
Yeah, or tax the gas, tax the
tax the gas.
Yeah.
You can have tolls in, a big deal. You don't have to charge that much. Then you encourage people who say, like the Amish went to Supreme Court, they still have to pay taxes for education, even though they don't send their kids.
Really?
Yeah. The Amish were the only people during COVID that sent the checks back. I know a guy, David Klein, I lived with. They all got these COVID checks and they said, we feel bad taking money from taxpayers will be okay. They all sent their checks back.
Wow.
So that's why I said the Amish
did they shut down in COVID? Did they even have a problem with it?
Well, Amish live on farms. They did okay. But my point is the Amish are actually virtuous. So you have two types of people in this world. You know, teach your sons this. Son, daughter, there's two types of people you'll meet in your life. One says they're virtuous and acts otherwise. The second says nothing and acts virtuous. Only hang around the second type. The Amish don't seek the news and they don't seek this, and they just say, you know what? Thank you for the government money. All of us got a check for, $5,000. We'd like to give this money back to the people. And so they just sent it back. And it's funny. David Klein said the government didn't know what to do. This Amish guy goes, they got a call. They're like, no one's ever given the money back. And he's like, well, in good conscience, we don't, they believe in the Bible. The Bible says, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God's. They're like, we don't need to take from Caesar. And so the Amish are truly free people. I hope Trump, he says he'll get rid of federal income tax and property tax. It should be. You don't own your own land. Right now in America, if you own a farm, you spent your whole life paying, building the farm. I have a farm. I have a big farm. We work hard, man. I got calluses on my hand, milk cows, build fences, grow crops so that we grow corn, oats, wheat, organic. We sell it to feed America, feed the world. And if somebody has a hard time and you can't pay your property taxes, the government takes them back. That just means you're leasing from the government. So how is that freedom? Shouldn't be free. There shouldn't be property taxes. There should be use taxes. It's more, and maybe a flat tax. I asked ChatGPT, what if everybody paid 15%, no exemptions? You couldn't do any fancy exemptions. Like rich people know how to do exemptions, right? So nothing. Just if you could even do one on gross. So if you gross $1 million, you just pay 10%, $100,000 plus use taxes. If you smoke a lot, mofo, you're going to pay a lot because you're destroying your own health, your children's health, and we're going to end up having to put you in a hospital for emphysema. So I'm like, all the vices should be majorly taxed. Alcohol should be freaking expensive. Humans don't need that much alcohol. Make it where it's like this shot of tequila, $50. You know how you cure alcoholism? You make it too expensive. So dudes are like, I'd like to be alcoholic, but I can only afford one shot.
Either that or they'll start making it in the toilet.
Let them do that. Hey, I'm all for what they call the Darwin
moonshine.
Awards.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to wipe themselves off the planet, but like, go for it, bro. You want to drink out of the toilet, make your own toilet still. Yeah, toilet shine. Hey, I think here's what is important for if you want to make money, what's important for if you want to have a good family, called the 4 pillars of good life, health, wealth, love, is something called agency. Agency means you pretend like you're the main character in the video game of life. And so you take responsibility. That's what the world needs. So the Amish, when COVID came, they came together as a community. They said times are tough, family, community. They have about communities are called districts of 150 people, 200 people, something like that. They said times tough. We might have to help each other out. And government send them money, and they said, no, we have agency. We're responsible for ourselves. And they sent the money back. The only people that send the COVID money back was the Amish. And that's because they believe that not just individuals, but families and communities should have their own agency. And they live a better life. And so if you're watching this video, if you really want to change your life, then you stop thinking about how you were born to this mom and dad, and it wasn't all fair. Both of our dads were in prison. I luckily was taught this at a young age. I never thought of it as a disadvantage. I grew up without my dad, but I took it as roll with the punches, man. Yeah. And so we need a world now where people just roll with the punches, and communities help each other. Don't look for big government handouts. Look what I did the math. You can go in ChatGPT. The U.S. had sent only half the money it sent overseas for wars. Okay. So instead of sending 170 billion, we'd only send 80 billion and kept the other 80 billion to help the victims of the North Carolina hurricane, the Florida hurricane, the Hawaii fires, the Los Angeles fires. Instead of Joe Biden giving them $700 apiece, you could have given each victim $110,000. So the government basically stole money from taxpayers that could have helped the community and sent it over. They have no right. They have no right. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you have the right. It's not the spirit of the Constitution. The spirit of the Constitution is government for the people, by the people, for the people. That's here.
Well, and the Boston Tea Party was fought over a 2% tax.
2% tax. I read the story of the Radio Shack founder. You know, I still own Radio Shack. And he remembers in like 1910 or that the U.S. passed this increased tax. So taxes went up to like 8%. And he said his dad and everybody, there was a riot in the streets of Dallas. People were like, protest, 8% taxes. Now, you know the story of boiling a frog in water? You just start out with lukewarm water and you just increase it 1 degree, and the frog falls for it. And eventually the frog's the victim. Well, American taxes used to be 0% in the 1800s, and then 1, and then 2, and then 10, and then 15. And all of a sudden, by the 1960s, there was a 90% tax bracket for a while. 90. If you made $10 million, they could keep 9. You got 1. Luckily, that didn't last for long. And then it went down, and then it creeped back up. I lived in Los Angeles. Every million I made, I got to keep 470,000 of it. Now, if that money was going to help people, for the people, by the people, I could have handled it. But what I found out from Elon Musk and a lot of this transparency, no. My money went to Sesame Street in Afghanistan. Hey, if I want to help Afghanistan, let me keep my own money. I help charities, private charity all the time. You don't have to confiscate my money. By the way, I guarantee you, the money doesn't even reach the poor people.
No.
You think in Africa, when we send money for AIDS and stop HIV, you ever seen the leaders of these countries, the dictators? It's literally going into their pocket. Look what happened. We sent a whole bunch of money into Europe in the last 5, and every one of the dudes in power now have bigger and bigger mansions on the French Riviera in France. Where'd they get that money? America sent it to them. So big wires to other countries. The money doesn't help the people. It helps the rich dudes on top. Of course, they're going to skim it. They're going like this. Oh, America send us 10 billion? Okay. 3 for this pocket, 3 for this pocket, 1 billion to the people. 3 for this pocket, 3 for this pocket,
and another,
1 billion
and another 3 back to the U.S. senators who are all corrupt.
Yeah, exactly. So it's by the way, there's something called Hanlon's razor, which says when don't attribute to corruption what you can attribute to stupidity. So I believe in some conspiracy theories, but I also think others, when you just give Washington, D.C. or anybody too much money, they're not that competent. Imagine being a career politician. You ain't never made money for yourself. Never. You know nothing about a business. Never ran an organization. And you are in control of $1 trillion. What could go wrong? You might as well give it. They did this experiment with monkeys. And they gave all these professionals who were supposed to be good at investing in stocks, the pros, the PhDs. There was a company called Long-Term Capital Management, the most Nobel Prize winners. And they picked the stocks and they said, these ones will go up. And it almost in the 1990s, they were so wrong, it almost bankrupted the entire United States. It was a big deal. Well, I should say almost caused a recession, not a full bankruptcy, but a big run on the American economy would have happened. They then took monkeys who know nothing and gave them darts. And they put all the stocks you could buy on a wall, and the monkeys just threw. And they taught the monkeys to throw. It's a famous book. John Bogle, founder of Vanguard, talks about this. The monkeys picked better stocks than the centralized group of geniuses. So when you have big groups of supposed geniuses, like long-term capital management, or like Washington, D.C., or like the Department of Education, just hire monkeys. Monkeys with darts, baby. The monkeys will have fun. It's better than zoos. Imagine you're a monkey. You get to throw darts and stuff. So by the way, you can learn a lot from monkeys. You know, they taught monkeys, there's an experiment. I forget which zoo, maybe San Diego. And they taught monkeys the principle of money. So they had the male monkeys and the female monkeys. This is a true story. And so the monkeys, they taught them you could exchange this little money they gave them. I think they used berries or something. You could exchange that for like snacks, treats. Okay? The first thing the female monkeys did is become prostitutes. They would have sex with the male monkeys to get more money. So, by the way, a lot of the flaws and the sins of us humans, we ain't the only ones. Monkeys too. I just thought that was funny. Like the first thing money creates. That's why they say, what's the oldest profession on earth?
It's prostitution.
Prostitution. Yeah. Men want it and women want money. It works out. It's a great deal. So you know, we're all. Maybe we're above the animals. I mean, I have a farm.
Slightly above.
I don't know. I have a farm. First off, all animals are 10 times smarter than you realize. They just don't have vocal cords like us. Trees are smarter. Now scientists at Harvard have found that when apple trees, if you have a whole bunch of apple trees in the mother tree where her babies had been from her seeds, when you cut down that tree, the mom knows. And she actually mourns. They can tell by the fungus under the ground, mycorrhizal. They call it mycorrhiza, and it can go miles. So they're communicating underground. So I don't know. Humans are better. Humans are sneakier. That's what I would say. But monkeys are sneaky. You give a big enough brain, people start going, how can I do things for my advantage? That's why I was just saying, don't centralize anything. That's the cool thing about crypto. What could go wrong? Big governments that can just print money. Well, my grandma told me when she was a little girl, she was born 1918 in Berlin, Germany. Her childhood memories are, first off, her dad was a doctor, my great-grandfather, and they were from the wealthy class, but they were still so poor because of the recession called in the Weimar Republic. This is in the 1920s, right after 1918. My grandma said she remembers people running with wheelbarrows of money or truckloads to get to the bank to deposit it because hyperinflation, the Weimar Republic just printed more money. So when you concentrate money into the hands of a bunch of bureaucrats, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So they make a lot of mistakes. The cool thing about crypto, if you take Bitcoin, there's 21 million of them. So it can't be inflated. Okay. They're slowly being released. It's instant transaction. It's permissionless. I saw a video. This is crazy. I saw a video in the UK. It was all over the news yesterday. A dude goes into a UK bank in England, London. He says, I'd like to withdraw $2,500 cash so that I can buy a dirt bike. It's all filmed. The bank's like, what's the justification for you getting your own money? And he's like, why do I have to tell you? They go, do you have proof of purchase? So now governments are getting so centralized and so corrupt, they're actually going to keep you from getting your own money. So that's why crypto is a powerful thing. It's a great thing that Trump embraced it, because just like the right to bear arms keeps the power in the individual, not in the centralized, the power to have your own money. I told people in 2016, 2017, Bitcoin was like $5,000. I was like, buy this thing. I can tell you it's useful because I used it to pay people around the world. I have people in India that do work for me. You can't wire money easily to India. And the fees, if you have to pay someone $300 for some work they did for some freelance stuff, first off, the money gets rejected. Bank of America charges $20. The bank in India charges another $20. So out of $300, the dude loses $40. That's a lot of money. I send them Bitcoin. I don't have to ask anybody. How come banks can take money out of your bank account on Saturday, Sunday, but you can't put money in? Talk about an outdated system. With Bitcoin, I don't care if it's Saturday at midnight. Guy needs money, I send it to him. So decentralize your life.
And no limits too.
Yeah,
like when I was in Puerto Rico, I was trying to send wires over 100K and they can't. They were like, go to a Chase branch. Like, well, there's no branches here, so I'm going to have to get on a plane.
Yeah, and they try to argue against it. They say, well, this prevents money laundering and drug trafficking. Come on. That's not a good enough. I'm not going to give up my freedom.
Because somebody else is selling drugs that's not me.
You got to think of the pros and cons. So yes, if the government completely controls all money, you would catch more criminals. Okay. So that's the upside. But the downside is 500 times worse. So as an adult, you always go, well, do the ups outnumber the downs? And so for me, I'm like, nah, drug dealers are always going to exist. If you want to solve the drug problem, don't go to Mexico and Colombia and spray the jungles. Stop the supply. Stop the demand. Stop the people.
Yeah, make it culturally not cool to do drugs, right?
Take responsibility for your own life. Try to rise out of the ashes. Don't do it completely alone. Build your tribe, community of people. Humans are built to be in groups of 150 people. So you should have friends and family that has your back. But do not look for bailouts from huge, distant places. No politician woke up today in any country and thought about you. But your friend might wake up and think about you. Your mom might wake up and think about you.
Well, charity starts at home, right? Take care of the people around you.
There's an old saying by a German, famous German, Goethe. He said, let every man sweep his own front porch and the whole world will be clean. Like you start going sweeping other people's porches. America, the best of America has been when we stayed out of trouble. Occasionally you have to go. We had to fight a couple world wars. Okay. But we also fought some dumb wars. We fought the Korean War, probably did no good. We fought the Vietnam War. 3 million Vietnamese kids, peasant farmers were killed. A whole generation of men was scarred. I remember when I was a little kid, Vietnam vets. I remember my mom had a roommate. My mom was a single mom. My dad was in prison. And this is in San Diego, Claremont. And my mom had a roommate, a woman. I remember her name, Debbie. And I remember seeing her. She was on a date. And I was at home alone. And I had a wooden sword that I had gotten from Germany from my great-grandfather. And I was like, I was probably 6. I was like, I'm going to scare him. So I went behind the front door. So when they opened the front door, I was behind it. And she comes in. This woman was probably, 25. And her boyfriend was like 25 or whatever. And they closed the door and I went, hi-ya. And this dude went nuts. He snapped. I remember he kicked it out of my hand, almost hit my fingers. Bro, I'm 5. This is a grown man going, I did a karate kick. This sword flew, shattered on the ceiling. And I was so traumatized. And he was like about to punch me.
You thought he was still in the war.
This Debbie, and I found out later he's a Vietnam vet. Wow. Just completely PTSD. So America gets involved in too much shit. I can't figure out what's wrong in Ukraine. Think Americans know what's wrong in Ukraine? Israel and Palestine? I don't like that people have so much opinions without actually being there. People just pile on the opinions of others who haven't been there. So it becomes the blind leading the blind. Ukraine and Russia will have to solve their own problems, and the people of that region. Even if America tries to help, we may make it worse. We've made it worse many times.
Yeah.
So I often think that foreign aid is narcissism. Oh, we know better. We got money. Imagine if you were like when I was rising up and I didn't have money. Imagine if some rich dude had come up to me like, hey, Ty, saw you're living in this little apartment. Here's $20, bro. I'm like, take your fucking money, man. Like, I had pride. Now, if you wanted to do a deal or you wanted to hire me to do something, great. But I think all these foreign countries.
Well, imagine like a crackhead that's homeless on the street. And you're like, here, bro, here's 20 grand.
Yeah.
He's just going to go and smoke more crack. It's not going to solve the problem just because you give him money.
No. You could solve homelessness. You have to. Most people who are homeless have psychotic breaks with reality. They have an actual disorder, physical disorder, where you see things, you're schizophrenic. And so the real solution there in California, they just said, well, we'll put them out on the streets and we'll let them live in tents. How's that help people? If you had a brother who was schizophrenic, would you just be like, yeah, I'm doing a great job for him. I'm such a virtuous guy. He lives on the sidewalk outside my house in a tent. No, those people need medical treatment. If you sent less money to dictators globally, you could completely treat every single homeless person in America. It doesn't take that much money. U.S. spends $1 trillion on the military. Now, I am a believer that America needs a military, but we overpay for everything. I think if I was Trump, I'd go issue an executive order. Listen to me, everybody. You will deliver exactly the same military supplies, and you will drop the price by 20%. If not, I will blacklist you and destroy your company. Maybe I wouldn't do that. That's too fascist. But I would say, we'll blacklist you. They take screws that you can buy at Lowe's hardware for a bag for $20, $8,000 I saw. So we spend almost $1 trillion on military. I would just say, we want all the same military stuff. We'll pay you $800 billion cumulative for it. That saves you $200 billion, almost $250 billion. That eradicates homelessness. And on an annual basis, you'd have that much money. And the military would be the same. Stop funding dictators globally. CIA out of control and all these things. I was watching Narcos. We're Latin American. My dad's, side's from Spain and Puerto Rico, and I'm half, European. And you watch Narcos, it's like America's in there doing nothing. It's like we're in here spraying the marijuana in whatever, Guadalajara, whatever. Well, first off, marijuana ain't that bad. Alcohol's worse. And that is a guaranteed fact. You look at the amount of people in prison who committed a crime while on alcohol compared to smoking weed, it is like 1,000 to 1. I had a big party in Beverly Hills here. I have a big house. I had this whole NBA and NFL came. So all the NBA, like the Golden State Warriors were all there, Draymond Green, all these big basketball, James Harden's at my house. Then all these NFL guys roll in. So if you're from America, NFL guys, American football guys are the biggest humans on earth. You think you've seen big dudes. No. These dudes are like 6'6", 380. And not even fat, just like monsters, and they can run. So these like 50 NFL guys come in, and I had like 10 big security guys. And I was like, there's alcohol. And I was going, if these dudes get drunk, nothing secure. You would need 1-for-1 security. So at the beginning of the party, a guy who was the big promoter that brought all the NFL guy goes, hey, you care if I pass out all this weed I brought? I'm like, please, brother, pass the weed. Pass the weed. I'm out here. Yo, take another tote. No crime on marijuana. People get it. The only crime committed while smoking weed is when the light turns green, you sit there and block traffic so you get a nuisance. Dudes on weed just sit there, watch the light turn from red to green. No, but alcohol, I own nightclubs too. That one of my first businesses I was in, Raleigh, North Carolina, George's Garage Pairs, all these big, dude, alcohol brings out wickedness. So I'm just saying, the politicians go spray Mexican marijuana. Why don't you shut down the big alcohol play? Alcohol, look at Puerto Rico where rum comes from, Bacardi. And I drink a little bit. I drink like 1 glass a month. I never got the appeal of alcohol. I don't think you should have zero alcohol. Make it expensive. That's where you should tax people. It's like alcohol should be everybody should only have enough money in their bank account because of how high you raise alcohol prices to buy one drink a night. You solve about, you know what happened instead of America having 10 million people in prison? We have the most people in prison. 2 million of them wouldn't be there if it wasn't for alcohol. Easy. Ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT guesstimates maybe 40% of people are there because of alcohol.
Mm. Well, and that has a domino effect because you have all these people in prison, right, in the United States, and then you have all these people growing up without fathers.
Yeah.
What kind of effect do you think that has on young men today?
Man, boys need a dad. It's a big myth that moms are more important than dads. Now, moms are more important in the first 5 years for sure. You could live without your dad. You could survive without your dad. You need nursing and obviously being gestation in the womb. We men can't do it. But there's no evidence that as kids get older, that the dad isn't equally as important. There's a thing called K-factor life theory, which is, it's this life history concept in advance. Like if you get a Harvard textbook, Dr. David Buss, it basically says, it tried to give one rank to people's personality. It's called K-factor. Essentially, if you get a bad rank, it means you're likely to have everything possible negative, more likely to be poor, more likely to die of a crime or commit a crime. What's the number one factor? Dad in the home.
Wow.
Dad shut a lot of, dude, my mom was smart. She got remarried to my stepdad when I was 8 because I was a pretty strong-willed kid. And she married a 6'6", 280-pound guy. I was scared of this dude. Now, I think it was taken too far, like old school, like, now you can't really beat kids. Back then, he used to beat, but it kept me from doing crazy stuff. Ain't nobody afraid of their mom. No boy's afraid of their mom. I remember my mom would be like, I'm going to spank you. I'd be like, yes. Because it was like, she was like, like, I literally wouldn't feel it. My stepdad, dude, he'd get a belt. He'd be like, drop your pants. He's like, you gonna cry. If you don't cry, I ain't stopping. Now, I think that probably goes too far. But the point is, when you put too many men in prison, which America did, you put a lot, like your dad went life in prison for a nonviolent crime. I don't believe that at all. I'm glad that Trump got that Ross guy out, Ulbricht or whatever, was in a supermax prison for having a website that was essentially open source. He didn't man it, and you could sell anything you want. So libertarian.
It's basically like an eBay. You just started something.
And
like
if people
eBay
sold heroin and crack, it wasn't his fault. Just like if you own a nightclub and people sell, you know how many nightclubs people selling drugs in the bathroom? You don't put the dude who owns the club in prison for life. They put this Ross guy in a supermax where he saw the light once a month. America's a great place except for food system, education system, and criminal justice system, or I would put at essentially the worst in the world. I was just in Brazil. I love Brazil. Better food system. Now, if you're totally poor, food sucks in every country. I live in Copenhagen, Denmark. Amazing food. One homeless guy in Copenhagen. City of 1 million people, he's one dude. You see him at this Norraport station. He's like a big celebrity. He sells little. So he's like one dude. 1 per million homeless rate. 0 obesity. During COVID, I was in Scandinavia for like a year at a time. Yeah, you don't see one obese person. America's 80%. So the best part of America is the entrepreneurial spirit, the farmland. America has the most beautiful farmland, the most fertile, large chunk of farmland on earth, which you need, food, shelter, water. Okay. America is beautiful. America's a very beautiful country. Large, diverse. So the American cities pretty much suck. There's no good.
Yeah, they're almost like prisons.
The only good American city probably is San Diego. Maybe Denver if you like to ski. Like, come on. Miami a little bit. Southern California is not bad. LA, San Diego, but like New York City. You think that's a good city? When I see people be like, New York's the greatest city, I'm like, bro, you haven't lived anywhere, have you? What are you talking about? I lived in New York, in essentially the nicest place in New York. They're on Billionaire Row, Lexington.
You had a sick penthouse. It looked over at Central Park.
There's only 5 places in New York that had a full floor, 9,000 square feet or larger, that looked at all 4 directions in New York. I could see both rivers in Central Park. I live there. Most boring year of my life. New York ain't the greatest city. Now, New York's the greatest city if you want to raise capital, or you're in the stock market, or
the most billionaires live in New York out of all the other cities. But it's a
but
depressing place.
But that's a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Chinese billionaires on Billionaire Road. There's a lot of empty condos. There's a lot of money laundering moving through New York. A lot of money laundering. You form a foreign company to wash your money. The foreign company buys real estate, cash. And on Billionaire Row, when I lived there, you go down. They built these, the most expensive apartment in the world was built across the street, blocked my view, pissed me off. This dude from, what was his name? Citadel guy, billionaire. 250 million he paid for this condo. Blocked I was on the 64th floor. Anyway, so America ain't great for cities. Food's bad. Entrepreneurship for making money, America's the best place on earth. Ain't no place even close. Nah, sorry. I don't even know what's second. I don't even know what's second. Singapore? Dubai? Come on. What are you talking about? America's 25 trillion. Dubai's 100 billion or something GDP.
Well, so, Americans also spend money.
Yeah, Americans spend. That's what I said. I always tell people, make your money in America, spend it in Europe. Like Europe's a great place. You got amazing food. GMOs are illegal. Okay. The water is great. I was just in Bergen, Norway, cleanest water essentially in the world. Okay. Everything's good. People are more beautiful. So I always say when I'm in Beverly Hills, I make the most money. When I'm on my farm in the US, I'm the happiest. But I have the best social life when I'm in Sweden and Denmark. There ain't no comparison to America. So that's why I tell people, look, I'm a patriot. I was born in America, American citizen, but I'm also not stupid. So I'm not a blind patriot. I'm not the kind of dude who's like, I love everything about America. Come on. When I see people like that, I'm like, bro, that's what children think like. Black and white. This country good, this country bad. There's a lot of great places. Brazil's got better food than America. If you have a little bit of money, I'm not talking about rich. Man, I go there, eat these big fruit salads, freshly picked. It's just like, oh my God, it's so good. My Uber, I took an Uber, it was 89 cents. Bank of America kept blocking my card on Uber. I'm calling, they're like, these are weird charges. I'm like, no. I did. I posted a video about this. People didn't believe it. And then people started posting screenshots. I saw a dude post a screenshot of a $1 Uber. 20 minutes. It was, I did one. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did jiu-jitsu at Rodrigo. There's a guy named Minotauro Nogueira. He was a UFC champion and Pride champion. I know his family pretty well. And I dated his sister, Juliana, black belt. You gotta be nice. You date a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt girl. You're gonna be like, you know what? This is one. And her brothers, her twin brothers, were UFC Pride champions. I remember dating her and be like, you know what? I will be on my best behavior. They're big dude. You ever see Minotauro and Minajero? They're two twin brothers. These dudes are like 6'3", Pride UFC champions. Anyway, so I was down there at their school training with my son too. My son knows. He was 5 training jiu-jitsu. He got to put on the gold belt. It was pretty cool. And my maid, I forgot some jiu-jitsu gear. So I'm like, can you go back to the hotel? She like my assistant. She comes back. It's like 15-minute drive that way. 15-minute back. It was like $3. So I tell a lot of dudes, greatest get rich quick scheme in history. That's legit. Figure out how to make 100 G's online, 8,000 a month, easy peasy. Easy peasy, and then go live in Brazil, Thailand.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere in Latin America, you live like a king.
America's expensive. America is expensive. People say Europe's expensive. No, you never lived in. I've spent 30% of my life living in Europe in the last 9 years, 10 years. No, it's not. The only thing more expensive is per square foot if you rent an apartment. So in America, for $5,000 a month, you'll get one this big. In Europe, you'll get one half the size. Everything else is cheaper. America has so much hidden fees. Like you don't have to tip in Europe. America now, you can do a self-serve and they got a tip on it. It's like you go to the soda fountain and at the end it's like, here's my Venmo. You're like, bitch, you're not even there. So I love America for the things that America's great. I hope You know what I like about Donald Trump? He's a maverick. Is he going to do everything perfect? No, because we're all mortals. But he's experimenting, and America needs an experiment. We got behind in everything. We got behind in everything except making money. But we got behind in health. We got behind in kids. We got behind in crime. We got behind in prisons. And so sometimes people go, "Oh, do you think what Elon and Trump's doing?" I'm like, anything. Hey, when things suck, do anything. Do anything.
Yeah, the system is broken.
Yeah,
we need to
if you're watching this and you're broke, I got good news for you. When you're at the bottom, the only way to change is go automatically be up. I remember when I had no money, I was sleeping on a couch in Clayton, North Carolina, mobile home, $47 in my bank account. I was depressed. I rarely get depressed. That was the time I was depressed. I remember thinking, I had a friend who had gone to NC State, gotten a degree in computer science, was making $250,000 a year. John McCauley. We're still buddies. And I was like, dude, I messed up, man. I tried to I had been an entrepreneur, made a little bit of money, but I'm like, I don't have any degree. This is back when degrees was, and I was thinking, life has passed me by. But you know what? When you only have $47 in your bank account, try anything. I started selling life insurance. I started using Google ads. I was one of the first people to use Google ads. On accident, 2001, I bought an online course, Corey Rudel. He said, came in a 3-ring binder. I spent all my money on it. People say online classes are a scam. No. Only suckers think that. I never met a man who has any IQ that thinks online courses are any more likely to be a scam than anything else you could do. 9 to 5 is a higher probability of being a scam. College, public school in America, way higher chance than spending $200. I don't do network marketing and MLMs and all that. And people say, oh, network marketing is a scam. I'm like, they're like $200 to join. What's a scam? You learn sales skills. Not a man in this world's ever gone bankrupt from $200, but they've gone bankrupt from college debt, gone bankrupt from fancy stuff. So anyway, if you're at the bottom, I got good news for you. Anything you do is likely to increase unless you kill yourself. That's about it. If you're at the bottom, that's why sometimes when I have a bad day, I a little bit get excited because I'm like, every time I have a bad day, the pain of that bad day, my creativity kicks in, and the next day I find a solution. So you got to learn how to harness your demons, harness the demons that are within you. Because all great men had demons that drove them to be who they were. Carl Jung said this. Sigmund Freud said this. What we call demons are really the motivating factors that break you out of despondency, satisfaction, and mediocrity. So I'd rather have a man who feels like life's given up. I'd bet on that man more than a man who's like, life's pretty good. It's not great, Tai. Because as Thoreau said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What's called resignation is confirmed desperation. So most people just resign themselves. You know what, man, I was going to get this. by the time I was 30, I was going to have all this. I didn't get it. And you see men just disappear. I've seen it many times. Men disappear. And then you see other dudes, Kentucky Fried Chicken founder, Colonel Sanders, the dude started like 29, he was the unluckiest man on earth. Read the story of Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had 29 business failures. Okay. He finally built one, which was this hotel, which was profitable, and it accidentally caught on fire right when he was going to sell it, and he didn't have insurance. Lost everything. He was essentially homeless in his 60s. He was homeless. He was living out of his station wagon. And he said, he's like, never give up. Out of the ashes. He's like, I'm homeless. I'm going to start this thing. And he came up with this, herbs and spices mix. And he became one of the wealthiest people on earth. And like Mark Cuban, the billionaire, told me, he said, Tai, good thing about America is you only got to win once. You can lose over and over in America. People bring up, oh, Trump had this casino that went bankrupt. So what? That's one of the great things of America is you can declare bankruptcy. People don't understand bankruptcy in America. That's one bad thing about Europe. There, if you're bankrupt, you're like blacklisted for life as a failure. America's like, wait. If you ain't going bankrupt once in a while, you're not trying enough stuff. Mark Zuckerberg says, move so fast you break things. Donald Trump's not a failure because he had a bankruptcy. The reason is because he never gives up. He's relentless. Be relentless. Suppress your emotions a lot, especially for men. Men are built to suppress emotions. That's a real talk people don't want to talk about. Nah, men are built to suppress. Women are built to express. Men are built to suppress. I like what Charlie Munger, the billionaire, some say the wisest businessman of all time. He said, when something horrible happens to you, the death of someone you love, he said, you cry about it for 3 days and then you bury it deep within your soul and suppress it and move forward as a man. So it's okay to mourn. You have but there's a lot of people operating in continual regret. If you're watching this and you're like, oh man, life passed me by. I could have had. Nah, that's not how regret works. There's a good book called The Power of Regret. You do what Charlie Munger said. You write down the 3 things that you did wrong. They become the pillars of your life. Never do that. Never date that kind of chick. Never do business with that kind of guy. You know, don't trust this kind of person. You write that down and then you suppress it for the rest of your life. There's a famous author. He wrote one of the great books of all time called All Quiet on the Western Front. His name's Eric Remarque. And he said, a man grows old only through memory. There's much too little forgetting in this world. Forget stuff, forget. I met a guy came to my farm.
And forgive too. I feel like people don't forgive anymore. But
some men, look, forgiveness is a genetic thing. Some people, there's a great personality inventory called Hexaco. Some people naturally are more forgiving than others. Yes, everybody should learn forgiving, but we know more about DNA now. A lot of this advice to people is oversimplified. There's people in this room, I can think of Adrian, Frank, you, me. We will not have the equal capacity to forgive. And it's actually protective for society to have some people who don't forgive. That's called, ESS, evolutionary stable strategies. So nature spits out, God, you could say, spits out children that have different variable forgiveness levels. So let's say Adrian's the least forgiving here, and Frank's a little bit more, and you're a little bit, and I'm the most forgiving. Let's just say hypothetical. That creates a stable group. Because if someone comes in and let's say we're a tribe, we're allies, and they kind of fuck us over, Adrian serves as the dude to never forget. Whereas I might be, but I'm also important too, because I forget. I'm a big forgetter kind of guy. I like that Eric Remarque. There's much too. You want to stay young? You know what's better than all the anti-aging stuff in the world? Forget all your failures. Don't forget the lessons. Just forget all your failures. There's a lot of dudes going on. I know the anti-aging protocols. Before anybody was spending $1 million on anti-aging, I was testing everything. Okay. I'm not saying I know more, but I see the people publishing all this stuff. I'm like, doing that 10 years ago, bro. But none of that works if you're living under the stress of regret. It's crazy. I had this guy come to my farm. It's crazy. I used to respect him as a business guy. Came to my house, and he's had a business probably doing 10, 20 million a year, multimillionaire. And he's in his 30s. And I remember him we were just talking, walking on the farm, go feed the horses or something. He goes, yeah, man, my dad left my mom when I was like 8. And he's like, I wake up every day angry at my father. And I was like, what a pussy. That's all. I know I shouldn't have that response, but I was just like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Who knows? Maybe your dad had a good reason. Maybe your mom was annoying to be with. What did you gain from being mad at your dad? Revisit your dad 10 years later when you're 18. Hey, Dad, I'm a little pissed you left. What'd you leave? Maybe he has a story.
Yeah, maybe
a lot of people have stories.
Or maybe he didn't know any better, right? Yeah, our parents grew up without the internet. They didn't have the same knowledge that we have. So we have to have a little bit of empathy and compassion. It's like they didn't know better.
And there's also women who did bullshit. What if she had slept with his brother?
Wow.
You don't think that happens? You ain't been in this world. National Geographic did a study in England where they were doing DNA testing in a neighborhood for something totally different. And all of the researchers get together and they go, Are we under a moral obligation? 10% of the kids on this block aren't related to the dad.
Wow.
At least 10% of women, of children, women trick, they sleep with another guy and then they, don't tell the dad. So what I'm saying is this guy, I lost respect, and maybe that's too judgmental of me, but I'm like, my brother, you're that kind of guy that life throws you some tough stuff and you're 20 years later waking up. I'm like, that to me, we use this word, you're a pussy in many ways, to me, and maybe it's the wrong word to use. Maybe it's too foul of a word, but to me, it means a man who's weak and he's like a leaf and the wind blows and he blows. And dad left. So he's blown over here into anger, regret. Whereas as a man, you want to be a rock. So a big wind hits you. That's how men were built. Men, if you do a Levinson psychology test, it's a psychopathy test. Men score higher in psychopathy. I own a big company called Life Compass, 12types.com. I've tested like 800,000 people. This is not coming out of anecdotal evidence. And there's a lot of good science on this. Men are more psychotic. And there's some bad things. Men commit more crimes, vastly. Men abuse their children 100x more than women do. So there's a lot of bad things of men's psychopathy, but in protecting the tribe, women faint when times get tough and there's bloody battle. Men don't. So the men have the ability, real men have the ability to, when the time is right, to suppress all emotions and be like a rock. I don't think you should be that all the time. You should show emotion to your kids and so on. But that guy, he wasn't a rock. He was a leaf. And I'm like, I can just say to that guy, brother, I got a prediction for you over the next 20 years, unless you change, unless you're born again. I said, pain, because that's not how the world works. The world keeps throwing things at you. You think it stops? No. So there's men impervious to pressure, and that's the men we admire the most. I can't speak to women because I don't have the female experience, so that's why I'm talking to men. But there are men who, it's called they have a high forget it factor. Life throws blows at them. I saw a guy who was falsely accused of rape and put in prison. Okay? He just got out. The man spent from 18 to like 60. And he got out, and I just watched this. It's crazy. It's a YouTube. This comes from like 2 years ago. Black guy, probably was poor, didn't have good. In America, if you don't want good lawyers, you get railroaded into prison. You're tricked into taking a plea bargain. A lot of these prosecutors are pure evil corruption. They want to raise. So they're like, well, I know this guy's not guilty. I'm prosecuting. They stick this dude in jail. One of the charities I support is called Innocence Project. I love that charity. You got money, give it some to Innocence Project, because they pay for DNA tests for dudes in prison. At least 10% of guys that they can detect. It's probably more like 30. They didn't do the crime. Anyway, this guy comes out of prison. The camera crews are there, the media, and they're like, hey, this woman admitted to just falsely accusing you. What do you have to say for her? And he's like, you know what? I forgive her. I'm moving on with my life. That's a rock. That's a man's a rock.
Stoic.
Yeah, he's a rock. A lot of men just kill themselves. I had, I'll tell you a story. It's a tough story. A couple years ago, a CFO of a big company, Bed Bath & Beyond, jumped out of a window. Now, I don't know the story, so I'm not going to pass any judgment. But I call one of my mentors. Bed Bath & Beyond was going through bankruptcy. And the CFO jumped out of a window, killed himself in New York, okay? Nobody quite knows why. He didn't leave a note, really. So I call my mentor. I'm like, wow, Bed Bath & Beyond, what do you think? What do you think, man? What do you think of this guy? He goes, he's a pussy. I was like, what do you mean? He said, some men are just weak. Now, I don't want to judge that man, but Bed Bath & Beyond turned around. They got sold and reabsorbed into a new company. So no matter what life is throwing at you, you just suppress your emotions and you power through it. You want the secret to life as a man? You're tough to move.
So you're talking a lot about like people hitting rock bottom as entrepreneurs, as business owners. Have you ever hit rock bottom?
Yeah.
And do you believe in like God? Like, have you ever asked God for help?
For sure. Everybody, there are no atheists in a foxhole. When the guns start shooting, everybody's praying to God. Everybody. Yeah.
You believe God exists?
Yes. In the sense, now, I have a lot of people following me who are Muslim, Shinto, Hindu. And there's a lot of different types of Christians. There's 1,000 different denominations. I can't tell you, I'm not an expert on exactly this God, who it is.
If it's God, Allah, Yeshua, there's all different.
But there's also the Hindus believe in that we're like in a reincarnation of many universes. And interestingly enough, astrophysicists now who are atheists are like, these Hindus might actually be giving the best definition of it's called MWI, many worlds interpretation, that there's parallel universes. So what I believe is that almost everything that's real, you can't see. That's what I believe. Everything that's real, essentially, you can't see. That's called quantum physics. And therefore, if we define God as what we must have faith in because we can't see, then only reality is God. The only one. String theory. There's little vibrations. All of this shirt, my body, a rock is all, if you break it down smaller and smaller, it never stops getting smaller as far as we know. And you get to these gluons and all this kind of stuff that's hard for us to understand. But they're essentially like little vibrating strings, but we have no idea and we can't see them, and they don't follow the rules of the universe. For example, they can go faster than the speed of light. Two of them can be across the universe. One changes, the other one anticipates it and changes earlier, meaning they don't even follow time. So that's God. God is the thing that doesn't follow time. Time is the biggest limiter of all of us humans. One day, nobody will remember me, except maybe if the videos continue on, even your bloodline will eventually dilute. Every single time your kids and your grandkids and great grandkids have children, you'll be reduced to where in enough generations, none of your grandkids will be related to you. They'll be less than 1%. And so what is real? Your life's not real. We just are bounded by time. So the way our brains work, everything's very real. Like everything in the news is real. It's like, oh, Donald Trump. It's like Elon Musk. Like, this is real. Well, that's because you're limited by time.
Yeah, in 100 years, none of it's really going to matter.
No, a lot of scientists.
Maybe even 5 years, right?
Well, probably a better explanation of Earth is all time's happening at the same time. All your ancestors are alive right now, both past and in the future. That, if you think that's a weird theory, you know nothing about science. 50% of the Nobel Prize winners in the world essentially believe that. Okay? That's called the block theory of time. Now, religion teaches the same thing. In the beginning, there was God. In the beginning means before there was time. And then the time said, let there be light. Let there be the planets. If you look at Native Americans, you know, turtles stacked on top of turtles. If you're Sioux Indian or Apache, Comanche Indians. But essentially what they're saying is we humans are fallible, weak beings because we're limited by time. And there's things outside of time. And that's what miracles are. People pray or people have dreams about things in the future. Your dreams don't always, and it's no denying that some people have had dreams that came true. And you could say that that's, you know, you could say that that's just luck, but you could also say that that is somebody transcending time through prayer, manifestation, and all that. So that's why I tell people, be a rock because nothing's even real. I see people, you know, it's crazy. I got a lot of guys following me that want to make money. These dudes are 23 years old, 28. I'm not a millionaire yet. I get a lot of suicidal people over the last 10 years. Dude, I'm going to commit suicide. I said, bro, being 23 is not even real. it's not even real. You just are experiencing that because our brain is not strong enough to understand that all time's happening at the same time. So imagine, it's a good example of this is like your iPhone. Your iPhone has a little lens like an eye. It takes a picture of something, but it doesn't perfectly replicate it. Okay? It's slightly wrong, right? When you put a stick into the water, the refraction, your eyes see that the stick looks broken, but the reality is there. So everything that we think we know, whether it's, let's say life sucks for you now. So you go, life sucks for me now. Or let's say you're winning right now and you just sold it. I just had a guy, my private client, just sold a company for over 100 million bucks in his 30s. He's up high. I'm like, that's not real either, brother. You could be dead tomorrow. The founder of Cash App cashed in for billions and then just got stabbed in the heart in San Francisco by a crazy homeless guy. Nothing's real. Nothing's real. So the real lesson of religion, all of them, is what you think is real is because your eyes can only see imperfect images, just like an iPhone. If we could see what was real, we'd probably all disintegrate. I mean, we would just be like, and so don't take yourself so seriously. If you're being slandered, I've been slandered before. There's things I get slandered for now. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I want to I can totally rebut these people. I can just show, hey, online slander about me is just totally false. I can prove it if they only knew the whole story. But you know what? I'm like, but the slander's not even real. People who hate you, they don't even know you. They don't even, it's like road rage. Two dudes are pissed at each other. You think the dude, and one kills the other one. He's only known that guy for 5 seconds. It's the other anger of the frustration of his life and that he's living a shitty life in a 9-to-5 job and stuck in traffic. And it's his other demons, and he ends up killing somebody and ruining his life because he forgot. This isn't even real, man. I don't even know this guy. So that's why there's a great book everybody should read called The 4 Agreements. They're basically 4 agreements you have to make with yourself if you want to live a good life on earth, heaven on earth. And one of them is don't get offended because it's rarely about you. I had a friend, good looking dude. I won't say too much. People know he's a well-known guy, was married to one of the most beautiful women on earth. Okay. And then she fell in love with another man. And my friend took it personally. And I remember, now this is a guy who's a millionaire, multimillionaire, has one of the great social lives, and knows 500 of the most beautiful women on this earth. No exaggeration. I said to him, bro, it's not real. You forgot the 4 agreements. You're offended. She actually, the woman you were married to that's leaving you, it's not about you, man. She's off in her own la-la land of like, oh, maybe grass is greener. There's nothing you probably, I'm not saying he's a perfect angel. Sure, he could have contributed to it, but some people, everybody who stays together has marital problems, and some people power through them, and she chose to leave. I said, he was depressed to the point of I was worried about suicide, So I would talk to him. I said, listen, brother, you mark my words. I know you and I know your life. 6 months from now, I'm going to call you and you're going to be living a life. You're not even going to remember that she left you. So anyway, I forgot I told him this. About 6 months later, we're eating and he's like, bro, I got a problem right now. I was like, why? He's like, I have these 2 models. And he's like, I don't have time. And he's like, showed me a picture. When I say models, I'm not talking about like OnlyFans fake models. I'm talking Milan runway models. And he's like, I got this 25-year-old girlfriend. He's like, she's so in love with me. And she's like, she's driving me nuts. And she's like the most loyal to me and all this. And I was thinking, this guy went from being depressed about his wife leaving him to being depressed about what most men wish was happening to them. So I was like, this is a you problem. You just turn everything into, like, you don't follow for agreement. Everything offends you. If a beautiful woman leaves you, you're offended. If a beautiful woman is too into you, you're offended. So I'm telling you, I need to start a movement for men called Don't Be a Pussy. DBP. DBP. Don't be a pussy, man. That's what I tell all men. Any guy watching this, you need to do martial arts, man. If you can only do it once a month, that's enough. Once a week's better. I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since, 2003, on and off. Sometimes I was busy and didn't do it. I'm not trying to be a pro fighter, but I've done Muay Thai, for more than a decade. And it toughens you up. Man must be punched in the face a couple times.
Gives you perspective, right?
Yeah, then it makes you a rock. You're like, oh, yeah. You put everything in perspective. And you're like, you know what? That's why I tell people, if you have not been through hell on earth, you cannot experience heaven on earth. Because heaven on earth is the contrast. I told you, my friend, he had never been through true hell on earth. He lived a privileged life. His only depression was one supermodel wife left him. And so when he was then in heaven on earth, where he's like, bro, I have 10 supermodels driving me nuts. He was like, I'm going to go celibate. Like, a man gets drained. He was too exhausted. He was also depressed. So I said, if you were a rock, you would just be fine. And so if you're experiencing a hell on earth right now, you are in possession of the greatest gift on earth. The hell on earth experience, because then it's all up. My dad went to prison. When he came out of prison, my dad was a happy man. He was married 6 times. I remember in the 60s, my dad was a good looking dude. He was good with women. And in the 60s, when he was in his 60s, I was like, Dad, you going to get remarried? He is like, never. He's like, I need no woman. I was married 6 times. He got married at like 18. My dad had 7 years with each woman. Anyway, he was married to very beautiful women. And, but he's like, nope, I've been through hell on earth with six baby mamas. And he's like, and I went to prison for 7 years. My dad had simple pleasures. My dad, every day, when he got out of prison in Terminal Island, it's an island off Long Beach, California, here in LA. And he never left Long Beach. He was born in Harlem, poor kid. My aunt always told me we had one pair of clothes. So we'd go to school. They had a uniform in Harlem, and they would wash their clothes at night to wear in the morning. They couldn't afford one set of clothes. So my dad, when he got out of prison, he'd been married 6 times. He's like, bro, I've been through hell on earth. Everything he was excited about. He's like, I'm walking. He's like, I remember when I couldn't walk because I was in a prison cell. I posted a picture online, me in the prison yard when I was a little baby with my dad. He's like, I hated prison. My dad was a big, strong guy. So he's like, I I wasn't beat up or anything. He got big and jacked. My dad was he was on cover of Joe Weider's Mr. Universe. I found a magazine with my dad. But everything was up for my dad. So for those of you who have hell on earth right now, like you are like, there are people contemplating, my life is the worst life on earth. When it turns around, you will look back and realize you're in possession of the greatest of all gifts. That's why Sigmund Freud said, in one of the greatest sayings of all time, one day in hindsight, the years of struggle will be the most beautiful, because they give you the ability to forever remember when the days are good, how good they really are. And that's why problem with rich kids, they're always depressed. They're in rehab because they never had hell on earth. Dad, money kept them from hell on earth. And so they don't experience hell on earth, heaven on earth. You have to have contrast. How would you know who a beautiful woman is if you'd never seen an ugly one?
Well, they say that money buys happiness. Money doesn't buy happiness, right. And people don't believe you when you're broke. Yeah. And then you have all these rich friends and you're like, yeah, no, money doesn't buy happiness because these guys are loaded and they're still struggling.
Money buys the removal of some stress, for sure. When I didn't have money, I had more stress. Money removes stressors.
But it can add other stress.
It can add other stress, but happiness is different. Happiness comes from perfect balance between the 4 pillars of the good life. Health, wealth, love, happiness. Therefore, if you have wealth, but not in possession of health, love, and happiness, it is impossible, or even two of the other ones. If you are in possession of wealth, but you don't have health and you don't have love, then it is impossible for you to be happy because our DNA is a cumulative machine. It adds together the cumulative score you have on a 1 to 10 scale. It says, okay, you're a 9 out of 10 on money. This motherfucker's good on money, but you're ugly. You're out of shape. No woman's attracted to you. That man will experience less happiness than a dude making 80K who's ripped and women love him.
It's more balanced.
Family love him. Yeah, the brain's a machine. It calculates. It's an algorithm. And it doesn't have one factor in the algorithm. So I encourage people, if you have the choice between being a billionaire, but having below average health, but below average love, friend, family, romance, or you could just be worth $1 million and have amazing health, then just take the $1 million and move to Thailand. Yeah. $1 million in Thailand is 10 million. $1 million in Brazil, $1 million in Philippines is like 30 million. So money's not that hard once you crack a little bit of it, as long as you're willing to move. Changing your geography is the most classic trick that our ancestors had to improve their life. People who didn't move died. People who didn't move went extinct. So one of the things that, going back to DBP, don't be a pussy, for men, I meet guys like, bro, it's time for you to go live in Brazil for a couple of years so you can accumulate capital, build your business, and not have high expenses. Well, then I was like, how will I see my mom? I'm like, fly her down. Men used to go, Viking men. I was just in Bergen, Norway, where the Vikings would set off to Iceland. Okay. This is cold water. If you've ever, these were men. I mean, men. These dudes were in little boats, essentially like balsa wood. Okay. I've been on a big freighter and got caught in a storm coming out of the Panama Canal. Dude, there's nothing scary on earth except the ocean. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You think, oh, I've been through turbulence. You can land the plane. If it gets too weird, the pilot just lands. We were out in the middle of the ocean. I took 28 days. This is not a cruise. This is a freighter. I went with the Amish because they're not allowed to fly in their religion. So we get caught in this storm. First off, a storm never stops. So you put your hand in a little cuff because you just roll. So you sleep about 15 minutes. You can't eat. I remember one of the Amish guys, Jerry Miller, all of us are like, we're seasick. So Jerry's like, I feel good. I'm going to eat fish, right? They had fish. Anyway, later that day, I said to this other guy, I was like, how's Jerry feeling? Oh, yeah. I said, what did Jerry eat? He goes, oh, flying fish. I was like, what? I was like, he vomited all of that out. And so ain't nothing scary except the ocean. I've been through, only other thing I've ever been, I don't get scared easy. Ocean storm. It was such a bad storm. We had an old Polish captain. This old dude is like been sailing for 50 years. By the way, Adrian, this captain told me, I was like, tell me some crazy stories. He said, man, I've been sailing for 50 years. And I once, before modern weather prediction, he said he got caught in a hurricane, the eye of a hurricane. And he said we had to stay in it for 20 days because if you get out of the eye is calm. He said the waves were so big. If you've ever been on a freighter, they have cranes with solid steel, like this big, bolted to, he's like, a wave will snap that thing like it's a twig. So he's like 28. He's like, that's the only time I've ever been scared. But when I was in this big storm, and it was in the Caribbean, it was such a bad storm. Even the experienced crew got sick. And the captain, I would go up to talk to the captain and he was like, we were the only guests he goes, I ain't changing course. I get paid to be on time. After like 4 days of the storm, he changed the course. He's like, even my first mate is sick. And the first mate had a bit like an infection in his tooth. One of the most painful things is a tooth infection. And you couldn't get to shore because sometimes you can call a helicopter, but we're in the middle of a storm. This first mate, one day, right when the storm ended, we're up in the breakfast area. And he's all happy. And I was like, oh, what happened with the tooth? He took a pair of pliers and just pulled his own tooth out. That's how much pain. But I'm just saying, A man should know there's only about two scary things on earth. One's being a Viking in a boat. I've flown over the Arctic. Even flying over the Arctic, I'm like, bro, if we go down, you don't need a black box. Ain't nobody finding us. There's nothing. You just say your prayers. You send the text on that plane. There's no recovery. There's nothing. It's like ice crevasses. You can be found 2 miles under the earth. So that's all that and being in the ocean. So if you're a man, you take your fears. Your wife left you. You lost your job. You go, I'm being a pussy. So I'm going to get on a freighter and I'm going to tell the captain, are you going through some serious storms? Because I need to know what real hell on earth is. You know, if you ain't in a supermax prison, in the middle of a storm, or in a plane crash in the Arctic, it's all good. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes I say modern society, nothing's wrong and everybody's anxious. Nothing's wrong. Lowest crime rates in human history right now. Least chance of you getting killed by a stranger. Even though we have murder, the lowest times 100. Back, if you were a woman, you had about a 50% chance of dying in childbirth. Now, essentially, in Western world, almost no women die. Men, you sleep with the wrong woman, you used to be like Al Capone. You get syphilis, it eats your brain, you become insane, and you're a dead man. They had silver they would give you. Didn't do shit. Now, dudes get a shot in the butt. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. You're richer than, let's say, the greatest kings in the last 500 years. Who do you got? Let's say we could take a queen. Catherine the Great in Russia, the wealthiest. I mean, this woman controlled Russia. You think Putin was rich. Catherine the Great. Ivan the Terrible before her. These men ruled at a level we can't fathom. They're poorer than a dude on food stamps now because they got a cold and died. You can be on food stamps. You ain't going to die from a cold. You can go walk right into the emergency room with no money. Even in America, they will not turn you down. Homeless people can go to a hospital. Back in India now, I remember I was in India. If you have no money, Indians don't care if you starve to death. There ain't no charity like we have here. I was in Hyderabad going into every day. There was like, I learned you can't give money to beggars. It's insane. You give money to one kid, 500 will show up. It's nuts. And there was always this beggar when I was going into this hotel. And one day I come back, the dude died. He's like, they're dead. And I'm in the morning, I'm like, what happened? They're like, I starved to death. So maybe if you live in India, times could be tough. Nowhere in the Western world are you going to die. I had a brother once freaking out about not making enough money. I said, you're in California. He was worried about being evicted. I said, best thing that ever happened to you in your life, greatest war stories you'll tell your grandchildren. I said, be homeless for 6 months, my friend. I said, go live in Santa Monica. It's warm. A homeless guy in Santa Monica is doing better than a rich dude in Warsaw, Poland in the winter. Okay. One dude is frozen to death, dark. So I said, you're a big guy. You're like 6'2". Ain't nobody going to mess with you. Why don't you just go live a free life?
Well, there's money everywhere.
No, you don't even need money. I said, you can beg. Beggars on the streets of LA make $6,000 a month. Some of them 10 G's. I once asked a guy, I give money sometimes. It's like, how much you make? He's like, I don't know, it's 6,000. I was thinking, no taxes. He gets a tan. He just sits out there. He had like a funny sign. He didn't even try to pretend. He's like, whatever, need money for weed or something like that. People are like, you're funny. Give him 6,000. So I'm just saying, in a modern world, the odds of something actually bad, being bad in your life are so low that you should just assume nothing's real. Nothing. People are stressed out about. I'll give you an example. I have a guy friend. He was dating this girl. In his mind, she was just good enough that he didn't want to ditch her, right? But he didn't like her enough that he wasn't looking for other women. So he's like, I should just break up with this girl for a year. Finally, a year later, she breaks up with him. I'm thinking this dude's excited. I didn't even have to do it. She just quit. It's like in The Office where the warehouse guy, he's dating a girl he doesn't like and he tricks her into breaking up with him. And she's pretending he's crying. And when he hugs her, you see his face like, yes. But anyway, so my friends, now I go meet him. Oh, good news. She broke up with you. You didn't have to go through all that pain. He goes, I'm so depressed. I lost the one girl. She was the one. I said, dude, for 12 months, you complain about why am I, but that is the weakness of the human brain.
That's the psychotic, because she broke up with him. It's like,
yeah, but who cares? The 4 Agreements book.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take it personally. I like what Michael Jordan said. Michael Jordan's a successful dude. I mean, Michael Jordan is a man that needs to be studied. There's no one who had that mindset, that true warrior mindset. And Michael Jordan, I saw this interview. It's such a simple thing he said. He said, my dad taught me to turn lemons into lemonade. So when he was in 11th grade, high school, he was rejected by the coach. Before then, he played baseball. But he's like, I'm going to try a little basketball. So he tries basketball. The coach rejects him. He said, I'm going to take that pain. I'm going to learn basketball. And now he's a billionaire. First billionaire from basketball, Michael Jordan. Because the man, anything you throw at him, any lemon you throw, the dude absorbs. He's like Thanos. He absorbs your blow and just goes, new power. New power. And I really think, I'm not into the Marvel stuff and Thanos, but I always tell people, I tell my company the other day, I'm like, don't worry about any competitors. Oh, that company's better at something than me? Not for long, because I'll absorb anything you do better than me. I just absorb it because I don't get offended. See, men are like, I ain't going to copy that guy. But Pablo Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. He means absorb. So once you become like Michael Jordan or like Thanos or do what I'm saying, what can go wrong except for Supermax prison, stuck in a storm in the middle of the Pacific, or plane crash in Arctic? Then you have permission to cry like a baby. Any man, I caught you crying 8 days in a storm. I'm like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this one. You got permission. But I promise you, watching, you could leave in the comments below. Now, maybe cancer, that you have a month to live or something like that. That would be, I wouldn't fault a man for crying. Things like that, losing a son or a daughter or something like that. But I'm just saying 90% of our problems, probably 95, are just because we were not taught mindset in school. If they had just told us, you will get stronger, as Nietzsche said, one of the great minds of all time, the mad scientist Nietzsche, the mad philosopher, he said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Now, I think he was wrong, if I might be so bold. What I would say is what doesn't kill you can make you stronger. Because many men, it makes them weaker. There's men who have something go wrong. They lose their business. They kill themselves. They jump out of the window. So that didn't make them stronger. So what it is what doesn't kill you is in your hands to make you stronger. So you got to retell narratives to yourself. You got to tell yourself narratives over and over. I like what Tony Robbins, gets up, looks in the mirror and says, damn it, I'm strong, I'm pretty, I'm rich, all that. You can do that stuff. I wouldn't fault a man for doing that. I don't exactly do that, but maybe I should. But if you just go, it's not even real, or you could use that book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and almost everything's the small stuff. So you just ask yourself this, will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is yes, then you can get a little butthurt about it. But if it won't matter in 10 years, in fact, if your life will be better in 10 years because the girl you didn't like broke up with you, should be jumping for joy. And like you said, most men get offended. I have found, I will tell you this, men say women are emotional. Well, okay. They say women are more emotional than men. The truth about this, it depends on what domain of behavior. Are we talking women are more likely to cry at an emotional movie? Depiction of emotion? Yes, the stats are in. It's pretty hard to argue. Even in Sweden, the most feminist country in the world, women on average are higher in what's called emotionality. Sentimentality is the technical scientific term. But men being emotionally illogical on some things, all men in prison from road rage incidents where they killed somebody they didn't know 30 seconds before the road rage, all of them are men. So on some things, men are ridiculously emotional. No woman is. There ain't no women in prison who a person cut off, they chased them, they got out of the car and they shot them. This has never happened in the history of women. So there's an area where men are weak. What you should say, somebody cuts you off in traffic, go, will this matter in 10 years? No, I won't even remember it.
Yo, I try to have empathy. I'm like, oh, this guy's probably late for work. He's probably stressing, or maybe he's going to the hospital. And I just try to have empathy and say, hey, God bless him.
Yeah.
You know?
But not all men have that empathy. That's why I said, better just to imagine it's not real. You're like, I'm just passing through time. I'm just happen to be in this traffic 10 years from now. Now, like if your wife was in the back of the car giving birth, maybe then you get stressed out. One of the things that Dr. David Buss taught me, he's been my mentor for more than 10 years, probably the most respected psychologist on earth. He said, there is this principle of baseline emotions. And so let's say your baseline is here. Okay, somebody cuts you off in traffic. You move out of baseline. You get super mad. Okay? He said some men, the more emotional ones, they stay off baseline for an hour, a day, before reverting to happy. That's a sign of an emotionally unstable man. So the correct response for an emotionally stable man, which is what you want if you want to make money, especially, something bad happens to you, yes, you should react, because if a car is coming at you with a horn, you should jump out of the way. So I'm not saying that's why Stoic is on the right track, but I think Stoicism has a lot of non-scientific concepts in it, which makes sense since it's from Marcus Aurelius and the Epicurean. You had the Epicureans and you had the Stoics over 2,000 years ago. They didn't know science. So what's more accurate is it's okay for you as a man, your wife leaves you for another man. A man who didn't move off baseline is mentally ill or retarded, handicapped. A normal man reaction is you move off baseline and then you should revert to baseline relatively quick. So road rage,
how do you get back?
That's where you got to be DBP. Don't be a pussy. You ask yourself, will this matter in 10 years? If it won't, you revert pretty quick.
So my dad was like a killer. Like he was like a hitman. So I have all this rage in me and I don't know where it comes from sometimes.
Genetics.
Yeah. And it's just genetics.
But I'm saying a man can be aggressive off baseline and you don't want that. You don't want that life. If you had a magic wand, if I had a magic wand and I wanted to bless you watching me, I wanted to impart a blessing upon you, I'd be like, may you be calm under pressure. If I wanted to curse you, easy. I could destroy any man with one magical wish. May this man be affected by everything. He's done. I don't care if I've met guys who made $1 billion who are easily affected. Never. I call it the substitute test. There's very few men I've ever met that I would substitute for their life. The exchange test. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a dude I look up to because I'm like, I would exchange to be, I'd exchange to be him. I'd exchange to be a pro basketball player. But rich dudes who are emotionally unstable, they date horrible women. No billionaire is good with women that I've ever met. They're like a 2 out of 10. Okay. So don't just look at other people's lives and go, oh, they have money and they have this. Look, are they rocks? Are they emotionally stable? That's the man you want to admire. The man who can take hell on earth, just come out the other side. I was thinking the other day about Nietzsche. He wrote this concept they called the Superman. Now it's a very controversial one because people like Adolf Hitler took it. And it's kind of like the Übermensch. The Übermensch, he was a German, I think Austrian, or in the 1800s. And Nietzsche essentially said, The man is supposed to become the Ubermensch. That means the overlord, or we call it the Superman, the man who's above all. And so a lot of Nietzsche has not been taught. And that, to me, in some ways, I like better than Stoicism, although I like a lot of Stoicism. I'm just not a cult dude, so you can't get me into just Stoicism. Some things I like Epicurean. I do think you should be Epicurean. I think it's okay to eat, drink, and be merry. I don't, Stoic is like always suppress everything. Marcus Aurelius did not live a life I would want to live. So I look at these philosophies and I like the exchange test. You admire men that you would actually want their life. And it's rarely rich guys. There's not one guy that I really admire that has more money than me. You can't get me on that. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a billionaire, but that's not why I admire him. I liked him when he had 50 million. The men I usually admire, like I said, best life, if you have a son, you want to be a pro athlete. That's the great life in the modern world. From like age, 18 to age 28, they have a good 10-year run. Everybody loves pro athletes. You want your kid to be Ronaldo, Messi, LeBron James. But besides that, if you ain't gifted enough, then you just want your son to be a money-making machine who's more than just money and is basically unaffected. You ever heard this thing called maxing? It's a common word now. They're like, you need to facial max, try to make your face beauty max. There's all this. They talk about it on Twitter, on X a lot. I heard a guy said, doesn't matter, max. Wife left you? Doesn't matter. It's like, lose your foot. I like the Ball brothers. There's a basketball guy. I interviewed the dad, the Ball brothers. He's such a cool dude. Like LeVar Ball, everyone laughed at LeVar Ball. He said, my son will play for the Lakers and my son after him will play. And my son after him, he's a big dude. He's like 6'6". Big Rome around me. They played basketball together against Shaq in college. Anyway, he just lost his foot. That dude's unfazed. This dude nothing phases him. And he's such a power of positive manifestation. He said, my sons will play for the Lakers. The Lakers were like, we ain't getting any of your sons. You're a troublemaker. I was there. I did an interview when his son was at the Lakers. We went behind the scenes and the Lakers staff came. I know Jeannie Buss, the owner, but some of the staff, they were so mad at him, they kicked him out. Well, guess what? Who's laughing now? He's got two sons in the NBA, two. And one of them, LaMelo, is a Hall of Fame. I mean, I wouldn't hate a man that said this guy is one of the greatest point guards ever. He's nasty good. Like he's doing stuff. I admire the Magic Johnsons, the Chris Paul's a friend of mine, all that. But LaMelo Ball, so this dude, he loses his foot, don't matter. One of his sons didn't make it to the NBA. He's kind of like a thicker dude, built more like a football player. Pro basketball players are pretty skinny. So he made it like D-League, almost made it to the NBA. So you think that son would be depressed, right? You think LeVar would be like, 2 out of 3 of my sons made it. And all their sons are good looking. They're 6'6". Like these dudes, trust me, dudes, if you want to be jealous, don't be jealous of any billionaire. If you could be LaMelo Ball for one day, you'd be like, fuck money. I want to play. I want to be a pro athlete. These dudes men love them and women too. That's the greatest life. Men and women love you. So,
well, that's the thing. Money, after a certain point, you can only buy so many Lambos. It's like,
when you can't buy love,
but you can't buy love. You can't buy good looks.
But if you're 6'6", light-skinned, good-looking dude, you don't have to buy love. Love comes to you. But what I was going to say is this son, LiAngelo, he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it to the pros. And I just saw him the other day. Who's got like the #1 rap thing? He became a rapper. This dude's like Michael Jordan. He's like, my other brothers surpassed me in basketball. What's the other respected thing? Basketball player. I mean, a rapper. I'm a rapper, bro. Drake has all the cred that LeBron James has. So all of a sudden, this family's unstoppable. I'm like, this family's the Ubermensch, the Superman. LeVar Ball, the father, is a Superman. And I guess, I don't know if he had diabetes or whatever, but he had to have his foot cut off. He'd roll around like nothing happened. I told you, the Bed Bath & Beyond dude jumping out of his company's going bankrupt that he didn't even start. He's jumping out of a window. So DBP, don't be a pussy. You lose your foot, shit, I'm gonna have a badass wheelchair roll me around. Have more sons. Your life didn't quite work out for you. Get 2 of your sons to be Hall of Fame basketball players and a rapper.
How many kids do you have, Ty?
I never say exactly. I don't put my kid, but I have more than one.
More than one?
More than one. Yeah. Just like be the man. That's what's cool about jiu-jitsu. In Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they call it like flow. You go in when you roll, when you spar. It's not like karate. Karate's kind of fake. Like you can't, it's like it's fine for exercise and discipline, but it's not real because it's rigid. Ain't no dude gonna stand on the other side
and get punched
while you pull back your hand. I mean, karate may be one of the great scams of all time. And UFC, one of my mentors started the UFC. He sold it to Dana White. His name's Rorion Gracie, and of the Gracie family. I talked to him. He's one of my mentors I talk to regularly. And these jiu-jitsu guys came to America back in the 90s. And they're like, these American mofos have like Chuck Norris and doing karate. The Brazilians are like, should we whoop up on all of their asses? And the dad, Elio, it's like, he had like, this is a big family. I think the 2 brothers had 21 kids. He goes, send the least talented of our family to America to teach America. So they send this guy up who wins UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3. All the karate rigid guys get destroyed by the flow guy. So what's flow? Well, jiu-jitsu is based off Japanese judo, but it's even more leverage for a small guy because Elio Gracie was a small guy. So 125-pound guy who was undefeated in Brazil at any weight class, he would fight you. So jiu-jitsu says if life throws something huge at you, a big guy, you can't stop it. I love Karate Kid, but I'm going to tell you this. I see dudes going, I saw a guy on Instagram being like, wax on. I said, look, Big Rome works for me. He's 6'6", 330 pounds and bench press 500 pounds. If he punches you and you try to deflect it, he will snap your arm in half. Like there's nothing. But a jiu-jitsu guy, when Rome goes to throw a punch, leans forward, a jiu-jitsu guy goes under him, absorbs him and pulls Rome down, his own strength against him. And once a big guy's on the ground, he's no longer big. He's awkward. So then the little guy maneuvers around the neck like a dog and mata de leon, the greatest move in all self-defense. Rear naked choke. They call it the lion, mata de leon, death by lion. And so in life, if you embrace Nietzsche, maybe Stoicism, LeVar Ball, Michael Jordan, the 4 agreements, here's what you become. Life throws something at you, and you do not block the blow because you'll break your arm. You let the blow come. You let it go past you, and you roll with it. And as it rolls on the floor, you end up on top. Michael Jordan, cut from the basketball team. He didn't fight it. He didn't say, well, how unfair this coach. He went and practiced every summer, all summer, on a dirt little pad. And he manifested. He's the only tall guy in his family. His brother's like 5'8". He grew to 6'6". Manifested this. I don't know. He always says, I don't know who the milkman was. But, he's 6'6". So, but I'm just saying, he comes out, becomes the greatest basketball player. I mean, most people, if you ever watch Michael Jordan, I love LeBron. Come on. Jordan was a killer. 6 champion. He went to 6 finals and won all 6. Never went to a game 7. He was a machine. And so he was a jiu-jitsu mind. All was absorbed, rolled with this guy that I said was at my farm that I didn't respect. I lost his father. I didn't have a father. So what I decided to do, I had a stepdad, but we weren't that close. At age 18, I began to seek mentors. Those are virtual fathers. Those are surrogate fathers. And my life, I've made more money than all my friends who had real fathers. All my friends that had real fathers, I made more money than all of them combined. Because the fact that I didn't have a dad, I rolled with it. Okay, I don't have a dad. Joel Salatin became a father to me. I've had 15 mentors, 5 of them on the Forbes list. I'm like, you're the father I never had. What do I do? Richest man I've ever been mentored by, Steve Ballmer, 10th richest man in history. I remember asking him, how do I raise kids and be a busy entrepreneur? I said, let me tell you. My father could have never told me that. Your father could have never told you that. You can absorb anything. Donald Trump gets convicted. He hangs that picture up in the White House, my mug shot. He's like, my mug shot made me iconic because you know what Americans like in a leader? A non-pussy. I knew when he got that shot his ear, and he stood back up and said, fight. I said, Joe Biden, Kamala, it is time to pack, and you can either forfeit the race today or you can do it in January, in November. But you won't win against a man who is like, you shoot at me, you incarcerate me, it becomes my fan gear. That's a tough dude to beat. I don't fear any man except a man with that mindset. That's why in entrepreneurship, listen, entrepreneurs are for the most part pussies. I mean, just there's no greater. It was a big shock in my life when I really started to make money and got to be around the higher level entrepreneurs. I thought these were going to be the badasses in the world. I really lost respect. I remember in 2013 being like, I don't want to even go to entrepreneur conferences unless they were the titans. The titans are the best. But the average entrepreneur dude trying to make money, this joker, if his first business don't make him money in 30 days, he's done. He's done. He's going to be stuck at a 9-to-5 telling everybody, his grandkids, well, I tried to start a business and it didn't work. Nothing's supposed to work out in 30 days. If it was that easy to make money, if the barrier was so low, 30 days, then anybody could be your competitor. Mm-hmm. You want to do hard stuff. So it was a big blow to me to be like, oh, I thought entrepreneurs were going to be the coolest people on earth. Only the great ones. So if you're a man and you know, a lot of dudes are into entrepreneurship. I'm one of the ones who kind of launched a generation of entrepreneurs. A lot of the people that you follow now are like people who came through are my students, the Iman Gadzis, all these kind of people. And I'm not taking credit for their success. What I'm saying is I've seen a generation of entrepreneurs launched, and half the men in America now want to be entrepreneurs. I was doing it when it wasn't sexy, right? When everyone wanted to be investment bankers. Now people are like, nah, I want to be. And I'm like, I don't fear you. You're no competitor to me. Why? You're weak. One little thing you're like a leaf. For one little product's gonna go by, one of your business parts is gonna fuck you over, and you get PTSD real easy. You're not like Charlie Munger, just go, I suppress it, cry about it for 3 days, and then never talk about it again. This is the great way for a man to live. Now, I don't think you should be that way with your children. You should be emotional with your kids. But I'm talking about life. That's the only man I fear. I fear no men who are easily moved. It's funny. I've had haters, and usually I just ignore them. In hindsight, I'm not sure that was the right thing. I had a guy who worked for me. There's a big, hater on social media. I won't say his name. But these are guys with YouTube channels that make fun of people and entrepreneurs and, oh, Tai's a scam. And I had this dude who was like 19 work for me. He took over one of my Twitters, and he was so ruthlessly bullied. This dude who's essentially a bully, this dude withered away. He would be like, and it was like childish stuff. He was talking to a grown man who's a professional hater. And he's just like, I fucked your mom with a fucking, just like the doof, like that wouldn't work on me. Some 20-year-old's like, and this guy just faded away. I was like, oh, this big bully guy, if he gets bullied 1%, he disappeared, never picked on me again. So that's why I said, don't fear weak men. I'll tell you who to fear is a man who tells you to stop doing something 5 times quietly. The 6th time, he's going to blow your head off. So that's the man. You fear the quiet guy who gives like warnings like, bro, you got to stop that. I do not like that. And 5 times, the 6th time, beware the wrath of a quiet, patient man. But dudes easily affected are just nothing. You'll never make money. Just get a 9-to-5 job, bro. Trust me. Get a 9-to-5, settle in, smoke weed to take the pain off the mediocre life. Now, if you can be born again, like Jesus said, unless a man's born again, he can't see the kingdom. So you want money? That's the kingdom. Unless you could be born again, less emotional, like you're going to have to harness your anger. That anger will be, I don't fear a dude who has too much anger.
Oh no, I learned to suppress it after the years. You know, I became the first millionaire in my family.
Yeah.
I became successful. I started helping my family, helping my friends. And then I kind of realized that like money can't buy you happiness. It's like it can buy you up to a certain point, but after a certain point, there's not that many things you can do. And then you want to focus on contribution and you have other goals, you know?
Harness your demons. You put like a chariot, man. You got these demons like dragons. It's like I watched that Game of Thrones, the new one, you know, and it's like some of them harness dragons and they're like they ruled the world, man. So you go to bed, wake up, take the dragons. Now they're pulling the chariot. You're in it and they go where you want them to go. So a man who's angry, I make more money when I'm angry. Sometimes one of my
channel it.
One of my COOs goes, Tai, things aren't going to go well this month. I'm like, why? She's like, you're way too happy. Dude, like every time you're happy, business goes down. So, you know, harness those things and you'll be okay. Everything's good in this world and everybody's unhappy. Because, you know, I'll leave you with this at the end. If I was going to curse a man, I'd be like, may this man's think he's entitled to something. You ain't entitled to nothing. You know, there's people who have tough lives. I have a friend in Brazil, most average Brazilian, minimum wage is $275 a month. I got a guy who follows me. I was down there. He was like, fuck this. I'm going to learn how to build software. 2020, built a software company. It's worth $500 million US now. He owns 51%. That means his cut, if he sells, he's trying to decide, is 250 million. Let's say after tax, Brazil has some tax, he'll be left with 150 million. Just understand, 150 million in Brazil is exactly the same as being a billionaire in America. Like it's actually, there's nothing you can do with $150 million in Brazil. There's nothing. In America, there's a house just sold down the street from me in Beverly Hills for $150 million. In Brazil, you know that movie where they tried to spend all their money? What was that famous movie? Like
Adam Sandler or something?
It was like the money pit or one, Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor. Like he had to spend all the money and he couldn't do it. That's my friend. So this guy's just like, he could have been like, yo, I'm born in a third world country. I'm born in Brazil. It's kind of a communistic, socialistic government. And he's just like, fuck that. I'm going to build software. And he built like a kind of like, a big SaaS company in Brazil. 250 million in 5 years, made 50 million a year increase in his net worth because the dude was he's kind of a stoic dude too. You talk to him, he don't laugh much. He's not depressed much. I have a friend who is in the Guinness Book of Records for the fifth highest IQ man on earth. His name's Walter, and they made a TV show about him called Scorpion. And he's a producer on the Spider-Man movies. And I remember the first time I met him, I'm like, so they say you're one of the highest IQ guys on earth, right? I said, what's the simplest piece of life advice you can give me? He said, always be a 7 as a man. I go, what do you mean? He goes, on a 1 to 10 of being happy or sad, be a 7. He said, if you're a 10 and you get super excited, then no matter what happens is all down. And he said, if you're a 4 and you're always depressed, you never have motivation. So it's like, every day I'm a 7. And I think I wouldn't call that stoicism. I would call that the Uberman, the Superman. Be the Superman, the real one. Superman is not a movie. It's a philosophy. But those of you who want to make money, I got life on easy mode. Paradox of choice. People have too many choices. Oh, Todd, should I do that? I like, does it involve AI or personal brand? If I like you, if I don't like you, I'm like, yeah, do that. That's good. One less fucking competitor. You can build, there's a guy who follows me on Twitter built Cal AI. It's a calorie counting app. He's 21. Now it's doing 2 million a month on the App Store. 2 million. I bet you his margins are 80%. He's making 1.6 million in his pocket. 9 months old company. What are you doing? But I'm betting against you if you think you'll figure it out on your own. Joel Salve used to say, Ty, I don't mind carrying a man, but I don't want him to drag his feet. Sometimes I find myself dragging people into wealth, kicking and screaming. And I'm like, what am I doing? You don't believe me? Like, great, dude. One of the great spiritual sayings of all time is Jesus Christ said, wide is the path that leads to destruction, and many there are that follow it. And narrow is the path that leads to eternal life, and few there are that follow it. So if you ain't doing some weird things that most people think are weird, it's because you're stupid. And Albert Einstein said, the thing about smart people is they seem weird to stupid people. So if you find yourself, oh, well, doing AI or personal mind, that's a little weird. That's because you might just be stupid. So you can't understand what I'm saying. Many men smarter than me are already down this path. It's the height of all arrogance to be like, yeah, Elon Musk is going all in. Larry Ellison's all in. Jeff Bezos is all in. The founders of Google are all in. Mark Zuckerberg's all in on personal brand. But you know me, Ty, I'm going to figure this thing out. I don't need books. I need nothing. I mean, Joe Rogan built an empire of 3-hour podcasts.
Yeah.
Because people binge. Most entrepreneurs trying to build a personal brand, they don't make long enough content. I call it the 13-13 rule. It's a rule I came up with that in order to have a real personal brand that makes money. Like I've done a lot of money with my personal brand, way more than 100 mil. Okay. Just from my Instagram. And that's because I put out a long enough content that the 13-13 rule, which says in order to have a loyal customer, they have to watch 13 hours of your content in the last 13 months. So if you're only putting out shorts, little 30-second ones, they got to watch 2 trillion to get 13 hours. But if you release a couple 2, 3, 4-hour podcasts, even if only 100 people watch them, you can get rich off 100 loyal customers.
You know what's so crazy? You reminded me of something you taught me in the New York penthouse.
Yeah.
And I've been repeating this for years. And I think I stopped giving you credit after a couple of years because I forgot where I got it from, but it's from you.
There you go. Cryptomnesia. Amnesia, it's called.
Every time that someone watches 1 hour of your content, they're comfortable spending about $1,000.
Yeah.
So if they watch 100 hours, that's $100,000.
Absolutely.
Now they might not have the 100,000, but at least they feel comfortable spending it.
Yes, there's a ratio just like that. Like Mystery, the pickup artist, says the average woman on earth, you need 7 hours for her to feel comfortable enough to sleep with you. Not the hood rat, not the strippers. I'm talking about the average woman that combines the virtuous ones and the non-virtuous. But there's an algorithm to the brain. So 7 hours, I'm not trying to get dudes to sleep with me. I'm trying to get them to buy from me. I put out long podcasts. If a dude watches this for 2.5 hours.
No like and trust. They already know you.
And people binge watch now. There's so much, like, put out long content. Even if 10 people watch it. I'd rather you give me 10 loyal fans that'll buy anything I put out. Just think about it. If you had 10 loyal fans that have money, let's say, and they'll buy anything. I got a 100K program. I got $1 million program. So if 10 people buy my 100K program, I can make $1 million from just 10 loyal fans.
People, yeah.
And I have a program. I have guys go every year in my it's 125K for me to privately mentor them. So it takes 10. You get 100 true. Now, the problem is people, that's not followers. I didn't say followers. You can have a shit ton of followers that hardly watch you. I'm talking about loyal fans. Definition of loyal fans is 13-13 rule. They're watching me. The last 13 months, they watch at least 13 hours.
So an hour a month, at least.
Yeah, an hour a month at least. So you better be putting out long content. I meet a lot of guys, I don't know what to say. Don't be a pussy. Figure out what to say. You got Claude now. You can just write a script out. Read the thing off for an hour. Claude's free. So now we have a nuclear power brain called AI, and men still won't put, I don't know what to write on my website. Claude and ChatGPT is run by nuclear power. They are splitting an atom to allow you to do your damn YouTube title. I don't know what to make my title. You can make the thumbnails. It's like, I love it, man. AI is actually, you would think it would make the world better for everybody. It won't, because it makes men lazier.
I can't think anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what does ChatGPT think? I was like, wait.
IQ is dropped.
Yeah.
But not for me.
It's not good.
Not for me. That's why you got to keep reading books. I keep reading and then I add chat. If you do ChatGPT right, it's like steroids. If you take steroids wrong, it kills you. And that's what a lot of people are overdosing on online information. But if you put it in practice, so it's like steroids and you work out and eat right, you've seen 6-month transformations on with steroids. You're like, this motherfucker doesn't even look like the same. He changed species. He changed species. So it's very important for a man to remember books are the steroids of the brain. I can download 20 or 30 or 40 years of a man's life experience in business, in politics, in power. I can download his whole life in a couple hours. I read fast. Even if you're a slow reader. If you ain't reading one book a week, you're about to get smoked. And AI won't solve it because remember, books are like gymnastics. They're like cardio. They're like weights for the brain. So if you just use AI, but don't read some old school learning, the muscle of the brain gets weak.
It's like doing steroids, but you don't work out. It's not going to work.
Yeah, you don't eat food.
Yeah.
If you don't eat enough, you don't gain muscle. You pack yourself, you can hit any steroid that you want. You can hit the most powerful steroids. If you don't eat, you don't gain. And so what's the equivalent of eating? Books, man. And some people go, oh, yeah, you'll get book smart and all then how many dudes do you know that just lock themselves in a room and never make money because they read too much? I don't, but I can tell you who the richest men on earth are. A man named Elon Musk. He grew up reading 2 books a day. First time I met Elon Musk at the Grove, I was like, how'd you figure out SpaceX? He's like, I bought all the textbooks that they teach in aerospace engineering and I just read them myself. So when people say you don't need money, I'm like, the richest man on earth begs to differ. Who's been the longest guy on the Forbes list in our lifetime? Warren Buffett. He says he reads 500 to 800 pages a day. So don't fall for the bullshit. There's a lot of influencers out there. Oh, if you just read, you're going to just get book smart. And yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I'm glad you're such an intelligent person. Yes, what I meant was you read a book and then you lock yourself in a basement for life. And then, the book didn't help you. We live in a world where
obviously you got to go
low
out
IQ arguments and they think they're profound. You're not going to, you got to say, you got to just go out and build a business. Yeah, 90% of business owners fail in the first 5 years. What odds are those? Men go, I don't want to get married because 50% of marriages end in divorce in America. Yeah, you know what is a worse stat? You starting a business on your own. That's a worse stat. 90% of people are broke in 5 years from being an entrepreneur. So if you think you're just going to waltz through entrepreneurship, I'm so excited that you're my competitor. I get excited. I go to entrepreneur conference. I'm like, thank God these are my competitors. These motherfuckers are dumb and lazy. Warren Buffett says, if you're going to have an enemy, make sure they're dumb and lazy. He said the worst enemy is smart and energetic because this mofo will hound you for life. So read. If I had to leave one last word, I was going on Elon Musk's, Mars lander or a rocket. I could leave one word with my sons. I would say read. What else would be better? Name one better thing in one word. That's practical. I'm not talking about philosophy. I'm not talking about be tough. I'm talking about a tangible, practical habit that's within the reach of 100% of the 8 billion humans on Earth. And my sons, before I get on that plane, say, Dad, there's only time for one word. What's something I can practically do that will give me heaven on earth, health, wealth, love, happiness? Read. Read. 10 richest men on the Forbes list, 8 of them read. And I know one of them that didn't read as much, Steve Ballmer. And he's like, but I didn't have to read because Bill Gates would go on reading vacations for 14 days and read 70 books. And then Bill Gates owns 64% of $3 trillion Microsoft. And Ballmer's like, I didn't have to read. So you got 2 choices, read or own a company with Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and just ride their coattails. Not that Steve Ballmer did that, but everybody, dude. What did the richest man for the last 10 years? What has been Jeff Bezos. I always find it interesting. Don't read. I'm like, what did Jeff Bezos, the founder of the internet as we know it, as e-commerce, 1994 started? What was his business? Books. He sold books. You know why? Because he loved books so much. And they're massive value to the world, and they're an easy commodity to put online. So he's like, books are the perfect thing. First wealth built on the internet was books.
Well, and he probably attracted a really high-end audience early on because wealthy people read,
Yeah, exactly. So you got a good customer base. Yeah. Weed out all your friends. I always say, you want to know who's humble in a room? The easy way. There's 2 types of humility. One, you try to trick me. It's called tone of voice humility. Hey, Ty, I really I'm like, bro, what do you fucking think? I'm a poker player. You think you're going to trick me with your tone of voice? If I want to know in this room, we got 2, 4, 6, 7 people. I have the actual definition of humility. Who here read the most books this week? Because if you don't read, what you're saying is, nah.
I got this.
Look, Aristotle, Socrates, Albert Einstein, I got this life. Those dudes had to struggle to figure out the meaning of life. But Tai, I fucking, I daydream. I do a meditation session, 15 minutes. I understand. You don't know life. This is, by the way, books were the first AI. Books was the first internet. What's AI? A mass compilation at your fingertips of the most powerful thing on earth, knowledge. I'm known as the knowledge guy. Thank God. People are like, I remember H3H3 guys like, did you know knowledge and you are a meme? I'm like, bitch, that's the greatest meme ever to have. I'm like, what the fuck is your meme? Nothing. Podcaster? I'm in possession of the most powerful thing on earth. Knowledge. Knowledge is so powerful. If you have insider knowledge in the stock market, they put you in jail, Martha Stewart, because they're like, it's too powerful that one dude knows something that other people don't know. Mark Cuban told me he fought the DOJ, the deep state, for 10 years. He was accused of insider trading. He won his case against the SEC DOJ. Bullshit case against him. But that's how powerful it is. Governments are making rules like, knowledge, but that's only on the stock market. Everything else on earth, you can legally have insider information. So you go to a club, every dude there sucks with women, but you have knowledge imparted on you from men who went through the trials and tribulations of how to talk to beautiful women. You know that, you sweep up that place. You look at Tinder, 5% of the men get all the women. And it's looks part of it, but it's not just looks. There's a thing called aura. Some men have aura, some don't. I have a friend who's 6'4", and he's a tall guy. We've been friends since 2 years old. And and he's a good looking dude. And I remember him one time, we were talking about height and men. And he's like, dude, so many times 5'8" guys have gotten the girl from me. So all these things that guys think are holding them back. Like, well, I meet guys that are like, I'm ugly, I'm like, bro, I got good news for you. Every rich motherfucker is ugly. Go up to hot girls, go one by one through the Forbes list, say rank these dudes 1 to 10. You're going to get 2s, 3s.
Well, I look at Jeff Bezos before and after. He was a lot uglier before he became a billionaire.
To women, he looked the same. Women, you think women think Jeff Bezos you think there's posters that women have of Jeff Bezos at any phase? So when dudes are ugly, I'm like, all the guys that I know, I'll tell you the worst thing to have. That's why if you have sons, you want your sons to be like an 8 on good looking. Best looking dude I've ever met is this guy named Drago. I called him Mr. X. It was one of my first courses I built. This man was magnificent with women. He was the doorman at nightclubs that I own in Raleigh, North Carolina. I never met a man, and I know the great pickup artists. I know Mystery. I know RSD, Owen Cook. I'm not too bad with women either. This dude was the Michael Jordan. This was the Ronaldo. Anyway, he never amounted to nothing. I hope you're not watching. He became an alcoholic. I think he might be dead. I've been trying to find Drago for 5 years. The man had 17 restraining orders against actual supermodels. Like 3 or 4 of them were Victoria. And he was too good looking. He had life on seeming. Remember I said you can't experience heaven if you haven't had hell? He never had hell. I saw Henry Cavill. You all know Henry Cavill? Some people say the best looking actor. He played Superman. He got advice. Somebody said, what's your advice? How do you just get a woman? He goes, just walk up to him and say, you want to go on a date? He goes, it always works for me. And I was thinking, I don't want my son like that. Look, I'm not the best looking dude on earth, but I've dated some of the most beautiful women on earth, without a doubt. And that is I don't know, I'll put them all on Instagram, but there's no greater thing than me sometimes being like, this girl fucking likes me. And I'm not talking about with money either. A lot of dudes are like, I'll tell you, you got girls with money. Well, women like status, but I don't give girls money. It's not my thing. I got a friend, a business partner. He loves hookers. He's like, I love prostitutes. I'm like, why? He's like, I'm busy. He's like, they come, I pay him to leave. Gilbert Arenas told me that from the NBA. He had a thing. He's like, I like to pay him to leave. But anyway, I said, there's no greater feeling than me knowing I'm not a 6'4" guy. I'm not the best. I'm not ugly, but I'm not a supermodel dude. And I got the dudes, I have the women that the good looking guys don't even get because they're nothing. They're bums. They got no ambition. You don't never have any of your kids, maybe your daughters, you want to be a 9 or a 10. Women, there's a good book on this called Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters by Satoshi Kanazawa, a mentor of mine. Women benefit much more from beauty. In poor places in India, that's why beautiful people have more daughters, because a beautiful daughter can raise the family out if she marries into a wealthy family. But sons, the 8 is good enough, man. 8 is good enough. You mark my words, all these influencer guys that look so good looking, these dudes are all going to have disastrous lives with no money.
Well, how are you going to keep your kids hungry? Because you're very successful. Are you going to just give them all your money, or you're going to make them work for it?
No, you can't. If you want your kids to be crackheads, give them all money. Really, I don't know why. This is a lesson. Like, you have to have the IQ of an ant to give your kids. I remember walking down the street of Beverly Hills, and a kid was like driving. This is over here where I used to live, on the house everybody saw. And I was walking, and he goes, Tai, here in my garage, right? And anyway, he pulled over, and he's like, I've been wanting to talk to you. He's like, I live on the street. I know you live up here. And he had a cool car. I forget what car he had. But I would just start talking for like 10 minutes. I dig deeper. I'm a psychology guy. What drives this kid? Rich parents. I don't know if they were billionaires, but hyper wealthy. The flats of Beverly Hills, any part of Beverly Hills, this is a money spot. You think you have money till you come to Beverly Hills. Oh, no, you don't. You have no money, brother. You live in Dubai. You think you have money? No, you don't. I did business with a guy. We had to have proof of funds to buy a company. And the bank, Wells Fargo, was like, all these lawyers. He's like, never insult me again. And he said to his assistant, pull up my JP Morgan personal checking account. He had $860 million in cash. He's like, don't ever fucking talk to me like that. That's Beverly Hills. Anyway, this kid, he says to me, Tai, I've been really depressed recently. I said, why? He said, all my kids at Beverly Hills, the high school, they all got Ferraris when they were 16 and 17. And look at this car I had. This dude had a badass car. For me, I had no car. I got to walk to basketball practice, right? And this guy had like a $80,000 car. And I remember thinking, the curses of the parents will be revisited upon the children. This kid's been cursed by his father. Shit, you ain't never. You will. What I think is I think Trump's dad did it right. Now, Trump get a lot of hate, but Trump is. I've been talking about Trump before he ran for presidency, defending Trump. His book is a great book. The Art of the Deal I've had it on my top book list since it started for more than a decade. And the thing I like about Trump, see, people get too much into the judgment of every iota that a person did. And I'm like, I like what Jesus Christ said. Hey, he who is without sin, you throw the first stone at this woman caught committing adultery. All these pussy dudes and people saying, oh, Donald Trump, not this fucking guy. The only reason you didn't commit some of those sins is because no fucking buddy likes you. You would be committing these sins more. So anyway, what Trump... Well,
and everybody loved Trump before the election, before he ran for politics.
Trump's had his ups and downs. In the 70s, 80s, he was loved. Then when that casino, he had he built the first $1 billion building. He had balls, built the first $1 billion hotel, $1 billion in cost. And it went bankrupt. But he maneuvered his way, cut deals with the banks. So he survived. This is the story of your ancestors. They survived or they didn't, and you're the product of the people that survived.
Yeah, and he still has properties all around the world.
Oh, yeah. Trump's a baller. And now he's the most powerful man on earth. When you control the nuclear footballs right next to him. They walk around carrying the nuclear codes. This man, and the American military, I saw Europe being like, oh, we're going to gang up to fight against America. I'm like, no, you're not. America has like 22. There's like 28 aircraft carriers on Earth. We have 22 of them. America will annihilate. An American can have a 3-front war and win. China, Europe, South America. America practices for 3. Anyway, what I was saying about Trump is his dad, you must study. I have studied Trump's genetics. So first off, his grandfather, he's German, Trump's German, came from Germany. His grandfather was a baller still back in Europe. So he comes from these genes of tough dudes. His dad comes, Fred. Now, Fred got this big lawsuit against him and, for discrimination, right? Not renting to black people and brown people in New York. Okay. And it got settled and all this. So his dad was controversial in the 70s, but all that's bullshit anyway. Look, I'm brown. Okay. So you can't fucking lecture me on white, brown. The way for brown and black people to get out, build your own fucking buildings. If white people won't sell to you, I'm like, bitch, I don't care. Nobody racist against me. If you're racist against me, I have more status and power than you. The answer is to go up. So anyway, I don't want to get defending I don't know what Fred Trump did, but I bet you it was a bullshit lawsuit. America has 93% of all lawsuits in the world. It's one of the worst parts of America. I don't believe any lawsuit at all. Literally. Your best way of thinking about lawsuits is these are idiotic lawsuits until proven innocent. I do the reverse. The only people who win in America are the lawyers. But anyway, so Trump's dad controls Brooklyn, but not Manhattan. And once Trump showed that he was a hard worker on construction sites, remember, there's 4 kids. One became an alcoholic. 2 daughters, I think. I think it was 2 boys and 2 girls in the Trump family. And the father, Fred, was a big baller in Brooklyn, but he played in like the poorer properties, so he didn't have the wealthy ones. And Trump was a young dude. He goes, man, I think New York's going to be big, because New York had been on the decline. If you watch the movie Scarface, if you watch Narcos, New York in the 80s, this is when my dad, like around the time my dad went to prison and stuff, it was very drug infested. I remember going to Manhattan. I don't know if you remember the days, like Manhattan was ghetto.
It was dangerous.
It was.
Prostitutes everywhere.
I remember I was at the Amish. I lived at the Amish for 2.5 years. I ended up in New York. I'm like, what is this godforsaken hellhole? Well, Trump, this is how little faith humans have. Manhattan's essentially the most limited valuable resource on earth, because you have the stock markets on it. The 2 stock markets, NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, on an island where you can't expand. So the real estate, going back to the Astors, going back to the Vanderbilts, Cornelius, he controlled this whole area. And so Trump goes, the whole world doesn't want to buy Manhattan. I will. Guess who turned out to be right? Trump. So Trump had a vision, and he wasn't a pussy. So even his father said, oh, don't go to Manhattan. Stay here where I am in Brooklyn. Now, his father helped him. Greatest thing a father can do, and what I plan to do with my sons, is impart my contact list to them, my network.
The Rolodex.
Meet my son. Don't give him anything for free, but put him at the front of the line. That's what Trump's dad did.
It's more valuable than money.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, and he co-signed some loans and stuff like that. But that's not ruining your kids. That doesn't ruin your kids. Helping families are meant to help each other. That's the underpinning of society, of civilizations have been family-based for 10,000 generations. So family helping family, but family fathers making their kids entitled. Hey, you don't do any work and you get a Ferrari. That's a curse. Fred Trump said, you work, brother? I'll meet you halfway. You did half the work? I'll make a couple introductions. And Trump went, he bought the Commodore. He had this, by the way, Trump's the story of a mentor. He had this mentor. What was his name? I forget his name. This Jewish lawyer, gay guy, genius lawyer, ruthless lawyer, negotiated with the city of Manhattan all the taxes away, $150 million tax abatement. So Trump now could go, hey, I'll buy this property. And he told the investors, we'll have to pay $150 million less of tax over the next decade than all my competitors. So he got the investors, he rebuilt. I mean, it was all good, Now, is Trump a saint? No, but I got to meet the guy that's a fucking saint. Who is no saint? Presidents are all non-saints. All of you think George Washington. So, let's have real talk. I admire the man, tremendous courage. There's a story, a famous book. He was a big slave owner. George Washington became the richest man essentially on earth before he died. He had a big farm. I have farms, similar area, plantations. He had a chef, a slave who cooked for him loyally. George Washington, loyal. Finally, in his 60s, this slave ran away. He was about to be, he's too old to cook, and he wanted to be with his kids who were in the North. So he ran away one night from George Washington. This is after George Washington was the virtuous president. And George Washington goes, "Where's my chef?" And they said, "I think he ran." And he hired bounty hunters and he said, "No man runs from me. Hunt this motherfucker down." And just to prove a point. So George Washington no saint either. Abraham Lincoln, he only cared about slavery once it would win him the election. He wasn't against slavery in the 1850s. Who? JFK? JFK had tunnels. He said he got a headache if he didn't sleep with 1 or 2 women a day. I mean, who's the saint? Lyndon B. Johnson? I mean, what are you talking about? Calvin Coolidge? That there was the biggest graft ever. Hoover, all these guys in the 1920s. So when people go, "Oh, I don't like this president because he's non-virtuous," I'm like, in American democracy, you will only get a warrior. We're not electing a virtuous. We're not electing an Amish minister. We're electing a warrior. He's the commander in chief, bro. What do you want for a commander in chief? Do you want a soft hand, highly empathetic mofo? I don't. You think I have big guys. I learned this when I owned nightclubs. Surround yourself with big ass. I almost got killed once by these Colombian drug lords that I had taken over the nightclub. I did an M&A deal. I don't have time to tell a story, but in Raleigh, North Carolina, I almost got killed. These guys cornered me. After that, I was like, I'm a roll with big motherfuckers. I learned this from my dad. And I ended up with this guy named Christopher Benjamin, who was 7'2", 500-pound guy. He ran security for me. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is when I look for dudes that are going to if I go out, Rome is a monstrosity of a human. He's not normal, dude. Okay. I don't go, "Rome, are you, I need a docile, I'm just really looking for a guy high on empathy." I'm like, no. One time we went to a house party about 5 years ago, Hollywood Hills. And I don't know what the bouncer at the door hit. There was a bouncer at the door, medium-sized bouncer. I walk in, he recognized me, he lets me, Rome's right behind me. This guy sticks out his hand and grabs Rome, and Rome does not like to be touched. And Rome whomped him, he went whoomp on the chest, and this dude, just like a movie. You think Rome's big if you see him. He hits
this your head
guy.
Bouncer?
Not bouncers, head of, I call him Peacemaker. He hits this dude in the chest. The guy flies over the bushes. I'm talking 6 feet. And he's just still. And I run over there and I'm like, lawsuit. I'm like, "Rome, you killed this motherfucker." He hit him so hard in the chest. And the guy got up and recovered. And I was just standing over him. I going, "Are you fucking dimensionally retarded? Because you didn't put a hand on me, but then the dude twice the size of any human in this state, you just reach out nonchalantly." I'm like, bro, Darwin Awards. If you died, if the world was fair, they're like, "We don't want your genes on Earth. You want your sons to have spatial perception." Really, I see dudes that never fought before. They're like, "Yo, bro, I can box. I'm gonna box a heavyweight." I'm like, oh my God, there's weight classes for a reason. Anyway, when I look for a president, I have very little concern for levels of virtue beyond is he insanely likely to, steal all the money out of the treasury and run to Paraguay. That's not going to happen. I don't care, because it's like hiring a bouncer. He is the keeper of the peace. So you give me a choice between Joe Biden, who the man I knew things were wrong in America. He's on a bicycle. Okay. He's riding. It's just, you can go watch this video. He rides, He stops. Well, if you ever ridden a bike, if you just stop on a bike and you don't put your feet down, you just go like this. He forgot to put his feet down. He just, whoop, boom, hits his head. Secret Service is rushing over. I was saying, if I was Secret Service, I'd be like, we have a president who can't pedal.
Who can't ride a bike.
Yeah, so Trump's out here 78 playing golf. Is Trump perfect? No, but neither was Obama. Obama deported more people than Trump did in 2016. Do people even read? I'm not defending the virtue of Trump. I'm attacking the virtue of all the people you look up to. George Bush. Clinton. Clinton's got, Hillary and Bill got, how many people, their close friendships somehow murdered? 81 of them. I don't know about you.
It's a coincidence.
But I got friends, and nobody has a lot of friends that have been murdered. Anyway, I don't even know if they did it. I'm just saying there is no virtuous in president. If you want virtue, you never look at politicians in the last 2,000 years. That's how suckers people are. They're like, Ty, you're not going to believe this? This dude who's aspiring to be the ruler of the world, president of the United States, I'm not sure this guy only looks out for the interests. No shit. That's why America has checks and balances. Checks and balances. There's nothing. And all the politicians that's saying they're more virtuous, it's just never believe. Here's another thing to tell my son before I got on a spaceship to Mars. Son, the man who tells you how much of a Christian he is going to be the first man to ever steal money from you.
Oof. Wow.
Dude, you start talking to me about religion, I'm like, oh no. It's just like a girl you date who talks about how she never cheats and is suspicious of you. This is only a liar. Only a thief has a guilty conscience. You get somebody, I would never cheat. Women who don't cheat don't ever make that statement because they assume that's the natural state of all women. Women who have to vociferously, and men who say, well, Trump isn't. Biden? Who's more corrupt, Trump or Biden? Well, who's more likely to be corrupt? Trump had a bill.
Yeah, Trump was already rich. So Trump
Obama's
didn't have to become politically corrupt to be able to become rich. He came in rich.
Yeah.
So Biden and Obama came in broke, left rich.
Obama's worth $100 billion now. He made $400,000 a year for 8 years and paid taxes on it.
That's
$3.2 million after tax. That's 1.5. Imagine, and he had loaded. So where'd the other 98 million? Oh, so it's like Democrats. I'm like, look, my grandma was a Democrat. I respect my grandma. Big Rome's a Democrat. Okay, I respect Democrats, but you live in California, the greatest paradise on earth statistically is Southern California. Ideal humidity, ideal temperature for the human body. Okay, the Native Americans here were the happiest. It was a wonderful place. Nothing was destroyed more than whack-a-loony Democrats. So if you want to be like my grandma Democrat, I respect you. If you want to be this modern thing, like in LA, it was like, well, if you steal less than $750, it's not illegal. Well, I don't know if you've ever been around criminals. I have. My dad was in prison. He had a lot of criminal friends. They're smarter than you think. So they're just like, we just go rob this one for $650, walk out and rob the place and just la, 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 la. And the police were like, we can't arrest him. Whatever politician came up with that, get a rope. Be like, if you're so brain dead that you can't fathom that putting a publicly acknowledgeable dollar amount that's not illegal is going to increase crime, you should be on the fucking handicapped short bus. You have to have, like a 12-year-old kid would be like, well, if I say, I won't get mad if you steal $700 out of my wallet, but if you do $750, you go to jail, and the criminal believes you. He just go, great, I'll leave you the 50. So I haven't been that political over the years. I like that Trump's a non-politician. We've had too many years in America where you had like hardcore people whose whole career, they come out of college, they became senators. That's not what America was built for, man. This is specifically what America was against. So, and now after just seeing the last 4 years, what's the difference between a conspiracy and the truth? 2 years now. 2 years. My mom is a queen conspiracy theorist. There is no human that likes a conspiracy theory. I mean, I'm telling you, if there is a world Olympic, I'm entering my mom. Like, I can just tell my mom, like, yo, mom, I had this microphone, it was too close to me. I think the deep state put it. My mom would be like, yes, I can see it happening. She'd be like, that she's microphone.
QAnon. She was there on January 6th.
My mom doesn't. Now, my mom's smart. Yeah. And the thing is, some of my family used to make fun of my mom. And I was just talking to one of them. I have Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. My mom's not. I'm not even a Republican. I'm libertarian. I love libertarian because that's America. It should be called Americanism is libertarian. So, but my mom, the other day, I was just like making stuff up. I was on the phone with somebody else. Like, I don't believe you, Mom. I'm like, Mom, like, I'm wearing these Nike or whatever. And like, Do you ever hear this story about Nike? Like these dudes were tied into the Sandinistas in Nicaragua back in '84. And they were tied in to Jimmy Carter. My mom would be like, I can see it. I believe it. Is it just so? But the point is, all that shit's getting proven true. I didn't take the vaccine. Operation Warp Speed is not something I take. It's like, I want Operation Slow Speed. I want to be the last guy to take an experimental drug. I'm like, is there a line here for this experimental drug? 600 people. Can I take number 600 on the little ticker thing?
Well, no. And then they're giving you a donut and telling you, oh, we want you to be healthy. We're going to give you a free donut when you take the vaccine.
You would have probably had, if you had distributed vitamin D tablets to the entire world, which would have been almost no money. Vitamin D tablets are essentially just one guy. America could have paid for vitamin D for the entire 8 billion people. It's not expensive. Synthetic vitamin D. You probably would have had similar morbidity. Old people die from shit a lot. By the way, I got COVID. That thing was real. I'm not a COVID denier. It was definitely a biological weapon. If you ever got that thing, you're like, what? This is not from Earth.
Yeah.
But that's going back to the beginning of this talk. Big government has too much money. And so they're testing all this bizarre shit. My mom says, ticks is a big deal. She's like, Lyme disease was a CIA. They infected ticks with it in order to kill off different countries. And I thought now I believe, I'm like, you know what, Mom, your idea is valid till proven invalid. And COVID was one of those things. So that's why I say, though, the answer is even though I talked a lot about politics, there was more of the philosophy of having self-direction and let every man sweep their own front porch. And you going, you know what? Nobody loves me like myself. So if you want to make money and you're waiting around for a business partner to get a little more energy, you're waiting around for things to get a little easier, you're waiting around so some capital, you're going to wait, brother. You're going to wait. So the one thing I learned from my first real mentor, Joel Salatin on a 1 to 100 of procrastinating is an actual 0. It's the only human I've ever met besides the Amish that there's no procrastination gene in his body. And I think, the average person watching is a 50 out of 100 on procrastination. And I probably dropped mine. Nobody thinks I'm a procrastinator. I probably dropped from a 50 to a 10. And that was a great superpower. That was another thing I would tell, if I had a little longer to talk to my sons, first, I'd say, read. Second, I'd say, don't be affected by anything. Third, I would say, avoid the sin of procrastination, because it's a sin. If sin means missing the mark, the greatest sin you can have against your descendants is to be a procrastinator, because time is the great leveler. All the wealthiest people on the earth, we don't remember. I read the book by the man who wrote How to Be Rich. J. Paul Getty, most powerful man who lived in this city. Now I say J. Paul Getty, people think it's a museum. Time levels everything. And so I tell my sons, the greatest sin that you have against yourself, your ancestor, your children, your future, and society is to procrastinate. And so people are looking for reasons. I'm procrastinating because Trump's president right now. His economy's not going to work. I think it's you should be catching AI and personal brand right now. I've told people the trends that make money probably as accurately as any human in the last 20 years. I will be cocky on that. You go back and watch my videos, and nobody called it how the average person could rise out from rags to riches like me. Nobody, not at scale. 500 million people have watched my videos.
And you still don't think it's too late to start a personal brand with AI, with all this stuff?
Personal brand, there's only 2 things going to be left, brother. Everything going to go extinct in making money. So you're going to have a whole bunch of people on basic income making $3,000 a month from government. AGI, not AGI, basic income. Okay. And then you're going to have a handful
universal
of people,
basic income.
Yeah, UBI. Thank you. You're going to have people who have a lot of money, and the people who have a lot of money, guess who they are? The people who caught AI and personal brand. Taylor Swift won't be disrupted by AI for the next 20 years. Eventually, robots and people will be watching but Taylor Swift making a bill at a time on a tour. Okay, she got a good 10, 20 years left that she can make a bill a year or a bill a month. AI companies, Cursor, 4 guys started it 12 months ago, 13 months ago, and it's worth $2.2 billion.
Cursor, what does it do?
Cursor is a coding to be able to code quickly.
Oh, wow.
Most computer code. Now you can make, anybody watching this, you can learn to make an app in a week. I'll do a shameless plug. Go to tailopez.com, buy my AI automation program. If you think it's a scam, you are way too stupid to be one of my students. So please, I encourage all of you who think it's a scam. You are part of that. 60% of men's genes are gone from Earth. All men descend. We done the Y chromosome studies. 40% of men had all the children that are on Earth now. Now women don't go extinct. Almost all women who want to have children will have them. But men who are highly cynical, you are the fodder of genetics to be just weeded out like a dinosaur. So if you still think that buying a course, look, if my course is whatever, $200, if you make $400 of value, that's 100% ROI. People are pissing their pants over stock returns of 17%. 17% after adjusted for inflation means you'll double your money in 7 years. Your 200 returning 400. You take one of my courses. No man's taking more people from rags to riches. I dare anybody. I'm like, I want anybody who wants to contest me on this. I want a fucking fair set of judges, and I want you to put millions in escrow, and so will I. And I will never bet against me because I only bet when I'm sure I'll win. I've taken money from many rich dudes. I don't bet if there's any chance I'll lose. How did I launched a generation. Almost everybody you follow learned from me. Almost everybody you follow, I got the screenshots. Tai, you're my inspiration. Everybody, Mr. Beast, all these guys, everybody, and I don't take credit for their success. In fact, I hope and pray they become better than me, because the sign of the great master is the students all surpass the master. I have no ego. There ain't nothing real. So I don't care. It means I'm good. And what I will tell you is, when I fucking make a prediction, pay attention. Pay attention. If you listen to CNN or something, you're a sucker. A sucker. AI and personal brand. First off, even if you don't believe me, there's not one man who controls the world. Who are the men who control the world? The top 10 richest men on earth. Okay. They have more money than the bottom 4.5 billion combined. All of them are in AI, except maybe Louis Vuitton owner and Warren Buffett, because he's 95.
Well, I think
Elon Musk launched his own AI.
I think that's why he bought Twitter, so he wouldn't lose his personal brand, because they were canceling people.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm going to buy Twitter so they can't cancel me.
The richest dudes on earth are afraid of not having a personal brand. Mark Zuckerberg is like higher. He's like skiing, surfing, windsurfing on July 4th because he's like, I'm only worth 150 billion. I might lose this if I don't develop my personal brand. Now, Trump was one of the first personal brands. Steve Jobs was a personal brand. Founder of Ray A. Kroc, founder of McDonald's. You know, Thomas Edison was a personal brand. Ford was a personal brand. So.
Well, Tai, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I appreciate it.